Member Bennett?
Here.
Member Brindle?
Here.
Member Sprague?
Here.
Member Swenson?
Here.
Mayor Hovland?
Here. The first matter we need to deal with tonight is the approval of the meeting agenda, the format of the agenda, which is a revised format. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. The next matter we have before us is the adoption of the consent agenda. For those of you in the audience, all of these items will be handled on a single motion basis unless a council member desires to remove one or more of the items from the consent agenda. Does any council member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing nothing, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Member Brindle?
Aye.
Member Sprague?
Aye.
Member Swenson?
Aye.
Member Bennett?
Aye.
Mayor Hovland?
Aye. We're moving now right to special recognitions and presentations, and the first one that we have to discuss tonight is a resolution number 2011-51, which is a congratulations for the green team from Highlands Elementary School. I have the resolution in front of me. I'm going to read it. I see all kinds of folks in the audience. Cheryl Dulas, Mike Siemens, the principal, Peter Hodney back here. I'm going to read this first. We're going to adopt it, and then we're going to let each of them, at least some of them, speak a little bit to this, to what happened with Highlands. Resolution 2011-51, Resolution of Commendation, Highlands Elementary School, 2011 Think Green. Whereas WFTC My 29, in partnership with the Minnesota Timberwolves, sponsors an annual contest challenging area elementary schools to demonstrate how they think green. And whereas Edina Highlands Elementary School entered the 2011 Think Green contest and submitted an application highlighting Highlands' green efforts, including organics composting in the lunchroom and classrooms, TerraCycle upcycling program, Husky hauler program, outdoor classrooms and vegetable garden projects, bottle cap recycling program, no waste lunchbox project, green team environmental program, and the energy conservation initiatives, including a student-led fundraiser for motion sensor lights at the school. And whereas Edina Highlands Elementary was the winner of the 2011 Think Green contest, winning a $1,000 donation for the school, 290 Timberwolves tickets, with recognition during the game, and a visit from Timberwolves mascot Crunch announcing their win. And whereas success came to Highlands Elementary School because of the extraordinary efforts of students and the leadership of staff and parents, and whereas success came to Highlands Elementary School because of the extraordinary efforts, whereas as representatives of Edina, the school exemplified the highest standards of thinking green and good sportsmanship. Now therefore be it resolved by the Edina City Council that congratulations be extended to Highlands Elementary School, its students, staff, and parents for the efforts made to preserve and protect our environment. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved. Second.
Is there a second? All right, thank you. Discussion. All those in favor of adopting the resolution 2011-51 say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. Well, congratulations to Highlands. I'm going to bring this resolution down. I think our communications director wants to take a photo, and then that's great. I'll let you decide who you want to have speak to this award. So, congratulations. Thank you. Well, I think they want to probably go over here. Up here? All right. And Mike, anybody else who wants to come up for this photo? Kids? Everybody who come on up. Everybody who's here.
Okay, we got to really snuggle up. Okay. Back up a little bit, sorry. Okay, 1, 2, here's another one. 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to switch settings if one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
I'm Peter Hodney, principal at Highlands Elementary. I live at 4532 Tower Street in Edina. And I would just like to say thank you to Mayor Hovland and the City Council for recognizing us for this award. And I'd just like to say too that, you know, we've done a lot, and Mayor Hovland talked about that, and we continue to do a lot because of the passion of the parents and the kids at Highlands. And Saturday we did a citywide bike rodeo, although it was 50 degrees and raining. Still Mayor Hovland came, which was great, and 25 kids from around Edina, every elementary school was there. And Sunday, a number of parents organized a May Day celebration at Highlands to celebrate our rain garden and outdoor learning areas. And I'd just like to say thanks to the staff and parents here, and especially the kids, because it's the passion of the kids that keeps us going. And I think at some point we'll see the kids up in all these chairs along here, and they'll be leading us in our green efforts forward, and they'll do a wonderful job. So thank you.
I've said enough, probably, Jim.
All right. Well, very good. Congratulations. Terrific award. I thought it looked just great around there, all the environmental activities that you've been engaged in when we were over there in the rain and the cold on Saturday. And just looking around since I was there last, you continue to make improvements over there and keeping the kids involved in things that are environmental in nature. It's terrific. The next item on the agenda is the Edina Robotics team. And I don't know who's here for that presentation. Here we go, right here. Yeah, I know they're in the green, but I don't know. No one told me who was coming to make the presentation, so my apologies. I know I invited you a few months ago to come and make a presentation, so thank you for coming. Why don't you identify yourselves and give us your address as well.
All right, well, before we start, I'd like to thank Mayor Hovland and the rest of the City Council for letting us come in to speak today. I'm Michael Woolsey. I'm the current co-captain of the team. This is Emily Condiff, our safety captain, and Clara Lee. And I think we're going to go right into the team video. Oh, and our addresses. I'm at 6345 Will Ryan Avenue.
5210 Villawe.
Thank you.
And 7013 Lee Valley Circle.
And I think right now we're going to go ahead and show you our team DVD.
Thanks, Mike.
Although only 6 years old, Team 1816 is the oldest first team in Minnesota. Since our beginnings, the Green Machine has strived to build a reputation as the go-to team for any and all things first. We never hesitate to help any other teams, even if it means our own robot needs to wait. We are pleased to help other FRC teams. Last year, at one regional, we gave out more than $1,000 in spare parts. We know that we are only as strong as our neighbors and our alliance partners, and that together we can meet whatever challenges come our way. Some of those challenges. We added 24 new team members this year, after 20 members graduated, leaving us with only 6 veterans. Students now seek us out to further their education in science, engineering, and technology, and about half of our team is female. In so many ways, this has been a second rookie season for us, yet we travel to other teams to help them with any and all aspects of robotics, whether it's fundraising, programming, or building. We host Minnesota Splash, the premier preseason event that brings both rookies and veterans together for a day of all things related to FIRST Robotics. We are pleased that many of the teams that we mentored, like King Tech, Rovettes, and Herobotics, are now joining us at Minnesota Splash, offering an expanded menu of topics and demonstrations. We hold outreach events year-round. We give demonstrations of our robots at the Minnesota State Fair and in shopping malls. We are a huge attraction at Tech Fest, an annual event that raises awareness of science and technology for students ages 5 to 12. Our captain met with Senator Al Franken to talk about STEM education in Minnesota and how it can be improved. We welcome every opportunity to represent FIRST. We also mentor 4 Edina FTC teams, including 1 all-girls FTC team, and we host a Girl Scout Robotics summer camp. We promote Project Lead the Way in our middle schools and high school. We are instrumental in bringing Project Lead the Way to Edina and are proud that many of our team members now take advantage of these pre-engineering classes. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter to keep up with the Green Machine. Our website also has a mobile application, so those with smartphones can check up on us at any time. Our contact at Edina Robotics is a favorite of many teams here and internationally to get their first questions answered. In our young life, we've helped start and expand FIRST in Minnesota. We are proud to see where the teams we've started have gone and excited to see where they go next. The Green Machine is delighted that FIRST is now part of our culture here, and we plan to continue our contributions well into the future.
Team DVD that we show at each competition every year. It's part of the competition is to enter a DVD and show how your team is doing, not only on the engineering aspect of your team, but what else they're doing besides the team. And that's a big part of the FIRST robotics organization that it's part of. You are an engineering team. You get 6 weeks to build and design a robot and get it ready for competition. But it's a lot more than that as well. We take a lot of pride actually in our outreach and the other things that we do. I think Emily's going to talk to you a little bit more about that. But we just got back on Sunday from the Robotics World Championships in St. Louis, and we did really well, and we've had a great season, and we take a lot of pride in what we've been doing this year. And I think Emily's going to talk to you a little bit about what else we do besides just the robotics part of it.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, besides being a robotics team, one thing that FIRST, which is the organization that runs our team, they really emphasize our team and talking to young people and trying to get them interested in science and technology, and also trying to spread that science and engineering really are really fun, exciting career choices for students. And like our video mentioned, we do a lot of outreach events. We go to the state fair every year. We present at Tech Fest at the Edina Community Center, and so that's just trying to get out. And we do a lot of demonstrations for elementary school children, and also in the schools to get students interested. We have FIRST Lego League teams, which is where elementary school students build robots out of Legos to complete a task. In the middle school, there's FTC, which is small robots that are about 12 inches cubed. And then in the high school, there's FRC, which is what our team does. And that's where our robots are 120 pounds and 5 feet tall. And so with this, it's been really exciting to see how our team has grown, and we're the oldest team in the state of Minnesota, and so we've helped start many teams in Minnesota to help spread FIRST and interest in science and technology.
You know, one of the things when you and I visited about a month ago, or maybe 2 months ago now, that amazed me was how much time you spend at this. And why don't you speak a little bit to how many hours a day and a week you spend working on these projects?
All right, well, as part of a build team, it kind of amazes some of the people when we talk about that. Basically, a typical day in our lives is we get up at 7, go through school, and then we go straight into the workshop, and we don't, if you're on the build team, you don't usually leave the school building until about 9:30 at night, and then you can start on your homework. We only have 6 weeks to do it. I mean, it's barely enough time to do it, like, especially when you're given, you start with nothing. You have to design it, you have to program it, you have to build it, you know, all of these things, and to only have 6 weeks to do it with a relatively small group of people, we have to use all the time that we can get. So we're all fine with it. It's part of what we do, but it can sound a little ridiculous, but that's how we get it done. Okay. Emily talked a little bit about it, just how it's not just a robotics team. There's a lot of the business aspect as well. We have to raise, it's quite a bit of money to be able to put together all of the robot and just to get our team around, especially like traveling, things like that. And that all comes from corporate sponsors. Like one of our major sponsors, Medtronic, has been with us basically ever since we started. And we have to go out and find it. Companies are able to sponsor us by giving us mentors that they're even able to compensate them for their work that they do with the team. And we've just, I mean, we put them on the back of our shirts. They're on our website. We basically do our part to just keep a good relationship with them, which provides a whole other aspect. It's not just building a robot, but actually going and finding the money to build it and then giving back to the community as well, which I think you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, one thing besides just talking about science and technology is we also do a lot of community service. Because we are the Green Machine, we want to support environmental projects in our community. We have adopted a park that we go and clean up, and we also do yard work for a church that lets us use their space, Calvary Lutheran Church in Edina. And so we really want to, besides just being a robotics team, to go out into the community and improve how people think about science and technology teams. And then finally, we have a couple things to show you guys. So we have our design book that we made this year that has all of the computer-aided design models of our robot, the process of building that. And we use this book in competition for judges. And then also something new that FIRST has this year is kind of like how Girl Scouts sell cookies. The FIRST robotics teams are selling LED light bulbs for fundraising, and they're actually really cool. They're really bright, and they last 10,000 hours. So, yeah.
And Emily, how would someone in the community that might be watching this on rebroadcast, how would they go about ordering light bulbs from you?
Well, we have our contact at edinarobotics.com that they could email us through. The light bulbs cost $20 each, I believe. So,
Yeah, and that's a good point too, is that most of the information that we've covered and any other information that we haven't covered, it's all on our website. It actually won 2 awards this year at both of the regionals in Minnesota that we went to, North Star and the one in Duluth, the Lake Superior Regional. It won the best website award at both of them, and it basically has everything we do. It has everything from our calendar, just that the team looks at, to blogs, news updates, pictures and videos of the team, so you can always stay in touch with us. We even have a mobile site in case you want to check it out on your BlackBerry or something like that.
So I want to thank you guys for letting us come speak to you, and we have Robo-Rags from our team for everyone. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Emily. Thank you. Congratulations. Oh, and why doesn't someone tell us quickly how things went down in St. Louis? You said it went pretty well at the World Championships. We should hear about that, and your fellow residents should know that as well.
Well, in St. Louis, there's 4 divisions of teams that are competing down there, and we were placed in probably the hardest division. There are some really good robots there. Our first day, we won 3 out of 4 games, and then we lost a lot after that, just with who we were placed with. But we did really well. We were placed 53rd out of 88 teams in our division, and the winning alliance in our division went on to win the championship overall. So.
All right, and what was the type of robot that you had to build and take down to St. Louis?
Oh, the task for this year that we had to complete was lifting inner tubes, kind of like you'd use in a pool or something, that they're either circle, square, or triangle shaped, and we had to pick them up off the ground or from the end of the field and hang them on pegs, on posts. The tallest one was 10 feet in the air, so we had to build a really long arm in order to reach up and hang those tubes. And there's also a mini bot, they called. At the end, we deployed a smaller robot from our big robot that climbed a 10-foot pole to hit the top and to win bonus points.
All right. Good.
Now, at your competition, do you have your fans, doing this for you? Is that what these are for? Are these like Homer hankies?
Well, yeah, it's not only that, but we also, it's a big part of the first competitions is giving out things from your team to the other teams. So by the end of the competition, you see them everywhere. Like, you'll see random parents of people's kids just coming up to you like, yeah, go Edina. I have no idea who they are, but I mean, you get to get your name out all over the country, especially at the World Championships. I mean, you see Green Machine stuff everywhere, and you also have a bunch of stuff from other teams as well.
Good. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Cara. Thanks. All right. See you. Good luck with the next go-around. All right. Next proclamation we have before us deals with National Public Works Week. And I will read that proclamation. Whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives. And whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as water, sewers, and streets. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of the community generally greatly depends on these facilities and services. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of the public works officials. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the people's attitude and understanding of the importance of the work they perform. Now, therefore, I, James B. Hovland, Mayor of the City of Edina, do hereby proclaim the week of May 15th to the 21st, 2011, as National Public Works Week in the City of Edina, and I call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and to recognize the contributions which public works officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Is there a motion to adopt the proclamation? Second. Moved and seconded, we adopt the National Public Works Week proclamation. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. And Director Houle, I will hand this to you, and I think you probably want to impart some information to our residents and the council as well.
Mayor and members of the council, for recognizing our public works. I always say that we're the kind of the unnoticed heroes. After you see a lot of natural disasters in the United States, we're the ones that actually come in and clean up after all the emergency folks have left the site, typically from tornadoes to flooding to what have you. And then obviously the snow plowing that our folks do at Public Works is probably the best in the whole region, as I always tell them, and most folks do. Coming up here to actually give some notice or notoriety to our folks on May 18th from 3:30 to 7, we have an open house at our new facility, and thank you, council, for supporting us on our new facility down at 7450 Metro Boulevard. And when Jennifer said she was going to create this poster and market it, I didn't realize she was going to have everybody in here with cameras and stuff promoting that. So we do have some donations coming in to help support this event, since we're in tough times budget-wise. And so we're going to be having some treats at the end. So and we got about 2,000 hot dogs coming for folks. So welcome everybody to the new facility, and should be a great event.
Well, if everything goes well, maybe you can post up the coyote response plan as well up there.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. We've got a couple other proclamations to deal with. One is the next one deals with Minnesota Environmental Public Health Week. The proclamation reads as follows: whereas environmental public health services provided in our community are an integral part of our residents' everyday lives, and whereas the management of environmental conditions is an essential element in protecting the health, safety, and well-being of Minnesotans, and whereas environmental public health is the public health discipline concerned with managing environmental conditions to prevent disease and injury to humans, and whereas the experienced and dedicated personnel who provide environmental public health services are registered environmental health specialists and contribute to improving the quality of life for residents and guests in Minnesota. And whereas Edina Environmental Public Health works together with the state of Minnesota to meet the environmental public health needs of our community. And whereas the state of Minnesota and the city of Edina recognize the importance of the essential services provided by environmental public health professionals. Now therefore we, the City Council of the city of Edina, do hereby proclaim this week of May 5th through 11th, 2011 as Minnesota Environmental Public Health Week in the city of Edina, and we call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our environmental public health services and to recognize the contributions that environmental public health officials make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Is there a motion to adopt the proclamation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of adopting the proclamation designating May 5th through the 11th, 2011 as Minnesota Environmental Public Health Week, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. And we have Director Engelmann here to accept the proclamation and talk a little bit about Minnesota Environmental Public Health Week. Sherry? Thank you.
Mayor Hovland, Council, thank you so much for recognizing the environmental health staff for the City of Edina. We're a very small department compared to the Public Works Division. There are 3 of us on staff, and we act more or less as an extension from the State of Minnesota Health Department. And we are out doing licensing and inspection enforcement work on a variety of public facilities. Our 3 staff, myself and 2 others, Jeff Brown and Sylvia Wilmot, are all registered sanitarians with the state of Minnesota. We're required to do that, to have that training to do the work that we do on behalf of the state. We're fortunate to have all 3 of us on board to do these activities in the city, and we really run from soup to nuts on the variety of things we cover, from daycare inspections to housing conditions to food safety issues to swimming pool and water safety issues. Our list is unending. There may be a radon question that pops up. There might be something on asbestos, whatever comes up in our realm we deal with. One of the background things we do is illness investigation, either waterborne or foodborne, and basically all these things they're not things you can see. I don't have a fire truck to show you, and I don't have a snowplow to show you. We're preventative in nature, and we're out there troubleshooting ahead of time to prevent illness and spread of illness. And we work with facilities to correct violations or issues that may cause overwhelming illness in the community. So I appreciate your recognition for the environmental health people we have on staff. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. You're doing terrific work. Any comment for Ms. Engelmann? All right, good. Thanks, Sherry. One more proclamation deals with Preservation Month, and that proclamation designating May 2011 as Preservation Month reads as follows. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas celebrating America's treasures is the theme for National Preservation Month 2011, co-sponsored by the Edina Heritage Preservation Board and the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Now therefore we, the City Council of the City of Edina, do proclaim May 2011 as Preservation Month and call upon the people of Edina to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. Is there a motion to adopt the proclamation? So moved. Moved and seconded, we adopt the proclamation declaring May 2011 as Preservation Month. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed say nay. Carried. And we will get this delivered to the Heritage Preservation Board. So there will be no speaker to receive that this evening. The next matter before us in the special recognitions and presentations portion of the agenda is item 5F, which is a presentation regarding a potential coyote response plan. And we have Chief Jeff Long with us, who is going to introduce the topic.
Good evening, Mayor Hovland and members of the council. As the agenda says, I'm here to discuss a coyote response plan in Edina. and I was very glad that the cameras were here for Public Works Week and not the coyotes. This has become it's become a serious issue in the city of Edina. We're seeing an increased number of coyotes, not only in Edina, but throughout the metro area. The purpose of tonight's presentation is just to address the issue of increased coyote sightings in Edina, to review the options that exist, and what our response procedure currently is. Here's a picture of a coyote in the summer. The average coyote will be somewhere between 15 and 30 pounds. In the winter, they grow a thick, heavy coat, and they seem considerably larger. There's some estimates that say that the winter coat makes it look like they're approximately 60 pounds. What we're seeing in suburban areas throughout America is this. We're seeing coyotes in neighborhoods, and that's something in the northern area that's fairly new. The coyotes are spreading from the south to the north. Just a brief history on what coyotes are. They're members of the dog family. They're intermediate in size between red foxes and wolves. In Minnesota, the average is about 30 pounds, about 18 inches high. They might, as I said, they might appear much larger due to their heavy winter coat. Coyotes are loners, except when they're raising their pups. And currently, the populations are establishing and increasing in the Twin Cities metro area. Their primary foods are rabbits and mice. However, they'll also eat small mammals, deer, and birds. A healthy wild coyote will avoid people. And there's never been an attack reported in Minnesota on humans. Coyotes are unprotected in Minnesota. I don't claim to be a coyote expert. When I got into law enforcement, I didn't really think I'd be talking about coyotes, but I am. But I've done a significant amount of research. I've learned a lot about the animal, and I'm going to relay what I've learned. We've contacted all the surrounding cities. We contacted Minneapolis, Eden Prairie, Bloomington, Richfield, St. Louis Park, Hopkins, and Brooklyn Park. They have all taken the same approach, which is educating the public. They do not take an active role in wildlife management in their cities. I also got a call and spoke to the mayor of North Oaks today. He saw that I was going to be giving this presentation. He wanted to give me a little bit of background on what they do in their city. And they have also gone with educating the community on how to avoid contact with coyotes and how to move them along. But I'll touch on that in just a minute. We also spoke to a biologist at the Minnesota Zoo to help us understand coyote behavior. We contacted a coyote specialist at the USDA in Utah. They are the nationwide experts of coyotes. And we've had several conversations with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and we've reviewed the calls in Edina. The options that we have in controlling coyotes in Edina is we can attempt to shoot the animals, we can attempt to poison the animal, we can attempt to trap the animal, or we can continue to educate the public as most other municipalities have chosen to do. Recent history in Edina, about 5 years ago is when we saw the first coyote. Might have been a little bit longer than that, but that's just a rough estimate when we had the first sighting. We've had 2 reported attacks on dogs. They both occurred this year. This isn't uncommon in the suburbs. Many small pets disappear each year, primarily due to predators such as fox and the great horned owl. We have had approximately 12 calls over the last couple of years reporting sightings of coyotes. That has increased significantly since we had a dog attack at Pamela Park earlier this spring. And again, no coyote attacks on humans have been reported in Minnesota. Our current response has been to refer callers to wildlife management companies. So here's the details on each option. Residents may hire a private contractor. The current city procedure indicates that if wildlife is behaving as expected based on the species and circumstances, additional controls are the responsibility of the property owner. This is the same policy as the Department of Natural Resources. Any property owner who deems wildlife on their property is unsuitable and unwelcome may hire a wildlife management company to remove the wildlife, and we'll help them with that. Wildlife management companies employ wildlife experts who have a variety of equipment, are well trained, and have the time to manage wildlife. The second option is the city may hire a private contractor to remove the animal for the resident. This is similar to the previous option, except the city would pay for the service. It's never been the intention of animal control to enter into the business of wildlife management. These are 2 very different tracks. If we were to use this course, how many other animals do we begin to manage? That's something we need to ask. What's the new cost for the city? And are we in the business of wildlife management for species such as coyotes, fox, rabbits, etc.? Another option is the city could authorize the police department to station personnel on the resident's property and shoot the animal. Firing a weapon in a residential location carries inherent risks. Even if there is a viable field of fire, risk cannot be eliminated entirely in a metropolitan setting. In an area such as Edina, it is not feasible to start shooting at animals that are running. One errant shot and we risk killing a human being. One bullet that penetrates the animal and skips could easily kill someone. When I spoke to the mayor of North Oaks today, he talked about how difficult it is to take down coyotes. That you need, that coyotes run at approximately 40 to 45 miles an hour. They take about 6 steps forward, a couple steps sideways, forward again. He said even if you get them in your line of sight, there's a good chance that you won't hit the animal. They sprint for about a quarter mile at a time. It's not just simply like we do with deer where we have feeding stations and shoot a large stationary animal. There's just an inherent risk at shooting at an animal. We shot at one coyote a few years ago. It penetrated the animal and did continue on, and we ordered the officer to stop shooting at the coyote. And that just discusses that it actually penetrated the animal. It didn't kill the animal ran away. This is very different than shooting at the large deer, as I talked about. This option also sets a precedent of committing police assets at city expense to address issues that could easily be handled more efficiently as outlined in my first option, which is our current policy of referring homeowners to a wildlife management company. This option is not recommended. I do not endorse this idea. For effective killing of coyotes per the USDA, you should use a powered bolt-action rifle fitted with a scope. The .223 round is recommended. This round is effective at approximately 500 yards. That's 5 football fields. A reminder, the bullets can skip off water, so even if you're shooting at a pond or where there's rocks, you need to be very careful when shooting a .223 round. This is what the round looks like. Again, it has a potential to kill up to about 500 yards. Second option is recommended by the USDA is a 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun. Number 4, buckshot is suggested. I have a significant concern on the spray pattern with that. This is what a target looks like when you use buckshot. Buckshot is really little BBs packed into a slug or into a cartridge, and as you shoot it, they spray. They don't carry through to one target. So I have concerns about spraying BBs. These are for a little shorter range, but again, you lose control once you pull the trigger. Another option is poisoning the animals. This is done by putting out poison in areas that may attract the coyotes. Once it's put out, we lose control over it. The food source is the same for coyotes as well as many other animals. We risk poisoning dogs that are unleashed and uncontrolled. Fox, rabbits, and birds would all fall victim to poison. It would take a considerable amount of poison to even make a small dent in the population of coyotes. Another option is trapping the animals. Non-professionals have very little success in trapping coyotes. You risk trapping all sorts of other things other than coyotes, such as people's pets. The International Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies has a 16-page book on the best management practices for trapping coyotes. This book was put together with the input from the USDA, the University of Georgia, and the University of Wyoming. Field research was conducted by members of trappers associations, technicians, and work groups. I need to emphasize, this is not something a police department can handle by just buying a trap and throwing it out in somebody's yard. This is something that needs to be handled by people who are experts, and we are not wildlife management experts. These are what the traps look like. You have a foothold trap, which is in the top picture in the field in the pond. You have a snare trap that's around the coyote's neck that strangled him. Just some other pictures of what the traps do. Keeping in mind, once the animal's trapped, you have to do something with it. You can either kill it or relocate it, but relocating coyotes is not easy, and you can't just approach them and put a collar on them and walk away. So now you need another series of events to try to get the coyote out of the trap. Educating the public. We have printed, published, and distributed educational articles. It's permanently on our website. Here's some examples of things we've done, starting all the way back in 2006 when we had one of the first coyote sightings. We issued a press release. October 26, 2010, the Star Tribune published an article about coyotes in Edina and Golden Valley. January 6 of 2011, there was an Edina Sun article reminding people to check their electric fences to keep their unleashed pets within their yard. February 2, 2011, KSTP.com put a reminder about keeping dogs leashed. March 31, 2011, again, KSTP.com had a coyote warning for pet owners in Edina. April 5, 2011, Edina Patch talked about the dog attack at Pamela Park. April 7, 2011, the Edina Sun had another article regarding coyote attack at Pamela Park. And we've had several city extra email distributions, and I won't read them all, but many media outlets also subscribe to that, which is how they're getting their information. The DNR recommendations are as follows. Much of this information is available on their website, which is listed here. As noted on the previously listed website that I just scrolled past, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources does not trap, shoot, or relocate coyotes. Where necessary, removal of coyotes is the responsibility of the landowner or tenant. For information on pest control, this is what they suggest. Contact your local DNR wildlife officer, conservation officer. Most coyotes will avoid people and domestic animals, but occasionally they will kill sheep, turkeys, calves. This is all on their website. Healthy coyotes avoid people, and no attacks have ever occurred in Minnesota. The one exception to that is if the coyote thinks that you have part of their meal, they will approach you. Our response is we encourage property owners to contract with a wildlife management company of their choice. This allows the wildlife experts to utilize the method they deem safest and most effective in that area. I adamantly discourage using police officers to shoot these animals. I think it's a bad choice and very dangerous. We provide a service of animal control, not wildlife management. There's a significant cost of equipment, training, and research for wildlife management. There's also a significant time commitment that would be needed for each animal we decide to manage. Finally, in conclusion, wildlife was here long before we were. Not all people are opposed to coexisting with wildlife. A quote from the president of the Lake Forest neighborhood in St. Louis Park, the March 31st article, said that, "I would actually hate to see any harm done to the coyotes. All of us with dogs and cats are going to have to be aware and make some changes." That's my presentation, and I will leave it open for questions for the council.
Questions for the chief?
So
Member Sprague?
these animals, though, unlike if you have, I don't even know what kind of animal in your backyard holed up in the tree or something, you can call animal control and have them come in. This animal wanders through. Are they keeping any permanent habitat in Edina?
They probably are, yes. What we've learned from the DNR is that they will travel between 10 and 15 miles a day. But yes, there probably are some dens in Edina that we haven't located. Coyotes are actually very smart animals. Minnetonka actually tried to set up a blind around a den, but with the human scent, the coyotes left and never returned. They are creatures of habit. Where they see food, they will go. I think as a police department, we need to do a better job educating people to keep their garbage cans put away and things such as that will attract coyotes. In North Oaks, they've had great success with the residents being compliant about keeping their garbage inside and keeping their pets on leashes and other things to keep the coyotes away, and they've actually seen a reduction in their coyote population.
Question, Member Bennett?
Chief Long, you'd mentioned that the incidents or the sightings of coyotes are increasing in this area as there seems to be an expansion of habitat from the southern part of the country to the northern. Has there been observation over time of a decline in population in some of the areas as this expansion occurs? And if so, what produces that decline in population?
Actually, no. There really hasn't been a decline. It continues to increase. What we learned from the USDA and also just generic research is that almost every suburban community is now dealing with coyotes where they're in a metropolitan area. They're not seeing a decrease, they're seeing an increase, but they are very territorial. And once they take a territory, you're not seeing a significant increase beyond the pack that is already there. Although they don't travel in packs, they're loners, but they're the ones that have claimed territory. I suspect, and the DNR suspects, that we will see a growth still of coyotes. And I think that's why we're getting more calls. But I also think we're getting more calls probably on the same coyotes because we're making people more aware.
Is there a number for a saturation point?
We actually asked the DNR about numbers, and they couldn't give us an estimate of how many coyotes there actually are in the metropolitan area or in Edina. So I really don't have an answer to that. It's still fairly new in Minnesota, and the DNR, well, they're dealing with it, and they do a great job in education. They just don't have the numbers.
Do you want, Chief Long, do you want people to call and tell you that they are seeing a coyote around?
Yes. Yeah, we do encourage people to call and at least let us know. It gives us an idea of where there's the population. It would give us an opportunity to educate the people in that community anyway, those that let their dogs off leash in the backyard or whatever, which is perfectly fine. But if there's coyotes in the area, yeah, we would like to know. We're obviously concerned, although there's been no human attacks reported in Minnesota. we're obviously concerned about that. We don't want that to happen, so we would like to know where they're seeing them.
Do you know if there's a connection? I know that there's a physical connection. I live near Braemar Golf Course, and we've inquired about some of the wildlife we've seen that the opinion is that it's coming up from north from Highland Park in Bloomington, comes across either on the railroad tracks getting across 494 or across Bush Lake Road through Braemar Golf Course and then into the woods behind our home. And assuming that the coyotes are following that same path as everybody else is, I just want to alert people to the fact that when you're at Braemar Golf Course and you're in the park, because there are walking trails around Braemar as well that are somewhat secluded. So just kind of watch and keep your animals on leashes.
Right, I think we need to do a really good job of educating people on that, because people do let their dogs off leash at Braemar, Bredis, and Cornelia Park, things as that. And I'm quite confident there are coyotes in all those places.
I am too. I see them in our yard.
Member Swenson.
What's the price tag associated with to a resident or to the city, should we ever choose to do this in taking care of coyotes?
Right. Animal Control Officer Tim Hunter called some wildlife management companies, and actually the three he contacted were fairly reluctant to take on a job of coyotes, but the prices were starting at about $400.
Except if they call them, by the time they call them, they're gone because they're fleeting creatures, right? They're not hanging around like something that's up in a tree or something.
Typically, we have had some residents reporting that they're seeing the coyotes about the same time each day because they're following the food source. But yes, sometimes they will be, sometimes they won't be. That is one of the concerns about the police department going out. Are we going to station somebody there for 6 to 8 hours or even 4 hours and risk shooting a coyote? But yeah, it's time consuming.
Personally, I think this is a very difficult problem. I think it's beyond an education issue. I expect once we get through this spring season here, this will become a greater and greater problem. And I think our residents that have had encounters with coyotes where they have attacked or grabbed their dogs and taken off with their dogs are quite frustrated. And an education program evolving around something that isn't part of the natural landscape in our town seems to me to fall short of the mark. These are very smart animals. They are also very predatory. And I think we're going to have to face up to trying to figure out what to do with them beyond just an education program. And so I'd like to have us start to think about that, because I think the problem will only increase over time.
Right.
And I don't like it. I don't like the idea of using a .223 or a number 4 buckshot on them. There's got to be some other solution here, but they're going to create more and more problems in our community. So I'd like to keep thinking about it, I guess is all I can say.
I agree. I really would like to encourage the public to contact wildlife management companies. I think that's the right answer. I do think they have the wildlife experts, they have the equipment that we don't have, and they have the time. Just the question of who pays for that.
I mean, I can understand that too, but there would be a frustration element in it if I were a resident too. It would be like, I mean, this is an exaggerated example of it, but a mountain lion shows up in your community, and you're supposed to call private wildlife management people to deal with it. I know that's an exaggerated example, but I think that when you've got a predator growing in numbers in your town, you need to develop some kind of a strategy to deal with it. The occasional fox is something else, but these things are.
I agree.
These things are something else. They fall into their own distinct category.
Sure. One of the things that we found out, and I didn't bring the website, Bloomington Police Department actually referred it to us out of Chicago. Great information on the spread of coyotes and what coyotes or what municipalities are doing literally throughout the country. And one of the things that they're finding is when they take coyotes out of one section, more coyotes move in. And that's one of the problems that we're going to have to face. But you're right, we need to continue to find solutions. it's just a growing population that we're going to have to contend with.
Somebody's got to think about what the threshold is when this moves from just an inconvenience to a public nuisance. You know, there has to be some threshold level where action needs to be taken to avert any future risk. I mean, is it 1,000? Is it 500? Is it 10? I mean, somebody has to set that threshold.
We're guessing right now, and it's strictly a guess based on what we're hearing from the community, what the DNR is telling us, that we probably have about a dozen coyote traveling through the city of Edina at any one point.
Returning again to that question or that observation, fact that there's an expansion of the population, the range has changed. And responding to the issues raised or comments raised by two of my colleagues, what have those other communities with a longer history of this done? You said that there was information from the Chicago area. Are there other communities that have eradicated them or kept them at a number, and if so, what have they done to do that?
Very few communities have done anything to actually eradicate them. And I literally spent hours and hours researching this. I'm not finding that communities are doing that. They're finding ways to coexist with the wildlife. I agree with Mayor Hovland. If your dog is attacked or you feel threatened, it's scary. I don't want that to happen to me or my wife or my kids. But I'm not finding it's education, and that's what the USDA is really recommending too, is to educate your residents on how to coexist. Leash your pet, put your garbage away, things such as that.
Did you talk to
Brooklyn?
Go ahead, Chief. Finish your thought.
Sure. I was just going to say, Brooklyn Park was trying something new where they were going to put up signs where coyotes had been seen and start putting signs in neighborhoods. They elected not to do that because of the cost. But that was another idea that I thought was creative.
What about, you hear the occasional story from California where somebody's out walking their dog at night and they get attacked right on the leash.
Right.
And they're in a tug of war with the coyote, with the dog on the end of the leash and the human owner on the other end. Have you talked to any of the communities in California that have tried to deal with this problem?
I haven't talked to anybody in the communities out there. I am aware of what you're talking about, yes. But no, I have not talked to anybody in California, just strictly Minnesota.
Well, you may end up being the Midwest expert on coyotes before we're all done here. As you said, something you never dreamed would ever happen in your law enforcement career. But,
right. But it's an issue, and I want the community to know that we are looking into it. It's just we're fairly limited on what we can do.
Chief, it seems to me there would be some merit in talking to some municipalities maybe out west, like Colorado or Wyoming or Montana, where they have more of these species around that they're having to deal with. They also have to deal with bear and other predatory species, so maybe there's some management techniques out there and some information on threshold levels, to where they get to a certain point where they trigger these action steps.
Right, absolutely. Good idea, and we can do that, and we will do that.
All right. Other questions or comments relative to the potential coyote response plan? Well, we'll follow your advice for the present, and maybe you can do a little bit further investigative work and let us know if you come up with any alternative ideas.
We will. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, I do have a request.
Member Swenson.
I know that Tim Hunter called around to ask what the cost was of coming out and everything like that. I guess what I would like to know is, one, do we have a list of people that will do that? Two, can we get a presentation on what it is that they actually do so that I have some knowledge that this is even a feasible option? Because, we've talked about telling our residents to do that. We've looked at the potential of doing it ourselves as a city, but I don't really have a lot of information on what exactly that it is and who that it is that would do it. If you called 3 people and they were reluctant to talk to you on the phone, that doesn't give me a warm fuzzy about, well, we can recommend to our residents that they call a wildlife management group.
Right. Yes, we can do that. We can at least ask if they'll come out. But the other option is I had the name, the North Oaks mayor gave me the name of a DNR agent that will come out and also do a presentation. He does a presentation, the way I understood it is on a cable television outlet for North Oaks, where he talks about the coyotes and what they do, and that's something I think wouldn't be a bad idea either.
But that's going back to the education, and we're offering potentially on here's a list of things that you can do, and the first thing is tell our residents that they can call a group to manage this coyote in their yard, and then we really don't have the name of someone that will do it. We're really not sure what they're going to do.
Sure.
I
Yeah,
need
we can
more
do
than
that.
that.
Yep, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks, Chief.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, we're moving on to the community comment portion of the agenda. Is there anyone in the community that wishes to address the council with regard to an issue that hasn't been on the city council agenda in the past 30 days and isn't scheduled for future agenda? Oh, sure. Come on up. Yeah, we'll do that right now. Thanks, Mr. Bennett.
Council, Mayor. My name is Robert Bennett. I live at 6628 Kelsey Court, and our dog was snatched by a coyote, and my wife managed to extricate it, and rescue the dog without it being killed. But I take issue, and I've had this dialogue in the emails with the chief, and looked into it quite a bit on my own. You know, it's the largest unprotected predator in Minnesota. They're an anathema in rural areas. They're shot on sight. If you hunt anywhere on anybody's land, the landowners tell you to shoot them, and are happy when you do. But when they're brought into an urban setting, their predatory behavior is even worse. Rather than get goats, sheep, calves, they get our pets, may attack our children. Chief's words in Minnesota about human attacks were on purpose, because there have been human attacks in other places. Just because they haven't happened in Minnesota doesn't mean we can ignore them. And I would say one thing, this isn't a response, this is a surrender. Instead of those green flags that the robots team needed, we need white ones, and wave it at the coyote. Or I suppose we could read the educational materials. I tried reading it to the coyote from my deck, but the coyote didn't seem to respond very well. He sits in a couple of areas on our property and our adjacent property, and he wouldn't have to be shot while standing. He could be shot while sitting, or when he came up for the Easter egg hunt on Easter Sunday at 5:30, and with my children and grandchildren on the deck. My son, who's a very good hunter and an excellent shot, decided not to kill the thing in the presence of the kids. So what he did was he walked outside and hit it with a rock. So he was 30, 40 feet. Now, he did play baseball against Joe Mauer, so he's got a pretty good arm. But needless to say, this is not an animal that's scared of people, nor scared of coming on property that people are on and are exhibited. There were a dozen people on our deck watching that coyote walk from its seated position around up into our property. So these are brazen animals, and I don't know if they're healthy or not. I know they ought to be eradicated. The other thing is, we called Wildlife Management Services. We've used them in our homes. They dealt with squirrels. They deal with all sorts of raccoons. We've asked them about coyotes. They said, well, Mr. Bennett, we'd be happy to charge you $1,500 to try to trap this thing. We could try to catch it. You got to catch it in its den, but you might as well give your $1,500 to charity, because you're not going to catch the coyote. And you can poison a coyote, but you'll poison a bunch of other things. You can do what farmers do and ranchers do all over the country, and that is shoot them. You have to shoot them safely. I'm not a one to believe that you can go around using firearms willy-nilly, but they can be used appropriately. And I guess my time is up. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Bennett. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Ellen Kennedy, 7220 Cornelia Drive in Edina. There was recently a very interesting meeting at Edina High School to address the challenge and the situation of child bullying. My organization is called World Without Genocide, and we're holding an institute this summer for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders to learn how to take a stand against bullying when they see it in their schools. We know that it's wonderful to be able to educate the parents and the community and the administrators about this truly epidemic level phenomenon, but we really need to reach out and educate the children. Prejudice, discrimination, and violence are beginning to plague our schools, our communities, and the world. And this 3-day summer institute is going to teach young people how to stand up against hate, both globally and locally. At this institute, students will learn anti-bullying techniques and skills to create what we call an environment in which everyone matters and in which everyone matters equally. We know that violence in class or in a school spreads to violence within a family and to a community and eventually to violence in the world. And what we hope to do is to engage young people in participating in important measures so that they then will become advocates for safe communities and safe families. What I would like to ask the council is to participate in this effort, in this program, to be held this summer at William Mitchell College of Law in St. Paul, by encouraging youth attendance, either officially by becoming a co-sponsor of this event as the City of Edina, or as private and influential members of the Edina community. Edina has truly been on the forefront of this issue, as last week's event lent eloquent testimony to. Our goal is for student action to really increase the ability to create safe environments for all of our children, and ultimately to increase students' civic engagement with problems such as this and others, so that indeed 20 years from now they will be the ones sitting in your seats. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Would you send some materials to our clerk?
I will.
And then the council can consider this.
Perfect.
As to whether we'd want to be involved as a community or involved privately.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, welcome.
Back to coyotes. I'm Linda Sherman. I live at 2 Mary Lane in Edina, and we've lived there 12 years. My neighbor's been in her home for 22 years. Last fall was the first time we have had trouble with coyotes. We've had lots of animals back there. It's a wonderful place to be, but we now have predators there. The coyote last September was lounging in my driveway. In order for me to walk down the driveway, I had to scare a coyote out of my driveway, and it was big. Yesterday, I was in my kitchen. My dog, which is a 22-pound dog, was out on our pool deck, which is up a 2-level boulder wall with a fence around it. I hear a horrendous noise out there. 2 coyotes are up there trying to get my dog. My daughter and I raced out there, and luckily, my dog was fine. But I think this is definitely an escalation of a problem. And the answer I was given is I need to keep track of my dog and keep him in. I don't think that is a real answer, and I do worry about small children. You send your 6-year-old or out, a 4-year-old out in your backyard. When does that coyote decide that is a small dog? And so I do think there needs to be some address of this issue. Thank you.
Ms. Sherman, was that just yesterday that those 2 coyotes tried to get your dog?
And okay. I have called twice, so this 12 times, I would be,
Okay.
It was just yesterday.
All right. 2 Merrill Lane.
2 Merrill Lane.
Yeah, and I know my neighbor at 7, she's called too, and she's had problems with the coyote. So.
All right, thank you, that's helpful.
One more
Good
comment
evening.
about the good evening about the coyote incident. My name's Becky Bennett, and I live at 6628 Kelsey Court, and our dog was the one that was attacked 3 weeks ago. I do have a picture of the coyote that's hanging out in my backyard. It doesn't look similar to the size we saw earlier tonight. This is a pretty healthy coyote.
Yeah.
I'll pass it
Thank you.
around. Our older son, who's an avid hunter, agreed with me. I think it weighs maybe 60, 65 pounds. Even if that's a heavy coat, winter coat, it's quite a bit larger than what I've seen before in the Colorado area or out golfing in the Phoenix area. I spoke with Dr. Porter on Friday at Westgate clinic who saw our dog her whole entire life. He did not happen to be in the office the day that I brought Smokey in. But I talked to him on Friday, and he is hearing that there's a escalation in the population of coyotes in the metropolitan area.
This is one of our local veterinarians?
Yes, Dr. Porter at Westgate
Thank you.
over on Edina. And he was surprised that Smokey lived through the attack. And we have about somewhere between around $700 in medical bills with relative to this attack on our dog. And his comment was, one, that he was surprised that she lived, and second, that he has heard that the population is increasing. He has also been told that the coyotes are starting to breed with wolves, and they're becoming bigger and they're becoming more aggressive. And as we all know, just go on Google and Google coyote attacks. If we haven't had any in Minnesota, we're lucky, because they've happened in many, many other states. Very similar. They start out attacking small pets, then they start attacking, and there are instances where they've attacked children up to 10 years of age. And there's also a recent incident where a famous songwriter was attacked in Canada and killed by 2 coyotes, I believe. So it can happen. And I would just urge the city to be more aggressive in finding a solution for this problem. It's one thing that our pet was attacked. It's horrible, but at least it wasn't a child. Let's do something before that happens. Thank you.
Yeah, Mrs. Bennett, I just want to tell you how brave I thought you were when I read the email story of how the coyote grabbed Smokey and took off with him, and you took off after Smokey and the coyote, and you got somehow the coyote to
I won.
drop. Yeah, you won.
I won.
But he tried to do a little deke and dive with you too to get back at Smokey, as I understand.
Yes, it did. It dropped our dog as I'm yelling and screaming in my socks. I just come back from working out. And what was so surprising to me, one, I had read the article in the paper 2 weeks ago about prior to that, about a dog being attacked. And I think that alerted to me, and I was aware that we were being careful with her being outside by herself. And I just let her out for a second out the patio door of our lower level, which is a fenced-in yard from the pond. And within seconds, I walked maybe 3 to 5 feet away from the door to grab my cell phone to go out with her, and he had her that fast. And I think he was probably back there kind of waiting for her. But, you know, he dropped her, and we got lucky. I mean, I yelled and screamed, and he just happened to turn. I think I startled him. He dropped her, but he did come back and try to get her again, scooped her up, and kind of flung her in the air. And by that time, I was gaining ground on him because I wasn't going to let him take her. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but we were lucky it was a pet and not my grandchild. And I have 2 grandchildren. As my husband said tonight, there are instances where they attack children of the ages of 10. Look on Google. It happens. And we're lucky it hasn't happened here. But if I have 2 grandchildren out there and it gets one, how do I save one and protect my other grandchild? I would never want to have to pick which one I'm going to try to save. So I just would encourage you to try to be a little more aggressive. I don't think educating the people, and I don't know anybody who leaves their garbage out in Edina. We're not asking these predators to come into our backyard. We're not leaving garbage out. I don't think that's the reason we have them. And I don't think people are feeding them. They're not, I don't think we're treating them that respect at all, where we're leaving garbage out. That's not why we have them here. That's not what's brought them here. But I think the numbers need to be decreased at a minimum. As Dr. Porter said, there's too many of them. They're having trouble finding their food source, their natural food source, and they're getting more aggressive, is what Dr. Porter was explaining to me on Friday. So I think it's a bigger problem than what we've been told.
Thank you, and congratulations on your bravery.
Any more coyote?
All right. Sure. No, you can, regardless of whether there are any more coyotes, come on up. And
Bob Kane, I live at 6629 Normandale Road. The reason I'm stopping up here tonight was just to talk about safety, as everybody has mentioned so far. Mine is related to the West 70th Street construction. And obviously, there's some detours, and the detours right now are set up off of 70th Street to go up Normandale and down 66th Street. And I do want to say something right now. I want to thank the Edina Police. They've been fantastic Officers Olson and Larson are a couple of gentlemen I want to mention. And just the whole group in general has taken a heightened attention to the amount of traffic, obviously, that's coming through that area. And we knew that was going to be part of it, you know, that obviously you have to detour off of 70th to go somewhere. One of the things that had come up in some of the previous council meetings was the idea of somehow diverting traffic off of 100 onto 62 onto Valley View or off France, you know, somewhere in that area, to try and take some of the congestion off of what comes through 70th. And for instance, just to give you some statistics, since we're got a couple of seconds here, January through May of 2009, on Normandale Road, there was 51 hours of patrol time done during that time, 5 months. During that time, the citations were 65 for speeding, 1 for reckless driving, 126 non-moving violations, 13 driver's license violations, and 238 warnings. Adding it up, it's about 100 stops per month during that time. That was back in 2009. In 1 week, there has been over 100 stops already since 4/25, the start of the construction. Nearly 20 a day. During that time, there's been 1 pulled over for 53 miles per hour. That's a 30-mile-an-hour zone. 1 for 50 miles an hour as well. I counted 193 bikers, walkers, joggers just in the last week coming up and down Normandale Road. You can take that and multiply it by 5 or 6 on 66th Street. All I'm asking is to consider somehow diverting some of that traffic, if you will, off of those 2 streets. I understand we're going to have traffic during that construction. That's understandable. But what we can do to try and take some of that pressure off, it'll take pressure off the police as well. They are spending an inordinate amount of time on that road, and they need direction as well, and they've been fantastic as far as responding. You know, any questions? I mean, Mr. Plowman, Andrew Plowman, a project engineer for WSB, has been very good about responding back. I'm still waiting to hear from Director Houle. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Kane. Let's talk about that. That's a real interesting issue here raised in conjunction with the West 70th Street project, which is going to go for many months yet. So we'll get Director Houle up here to talk about it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sheila Respecki. I'm 6617 Normandale Road. I'm with Bob Kane regarding the traffic up the frontage road at this time and down 66th Street. I have a son with a disability, which we watch very carefully, but the traffic coming up the frontage road has just been outrageous this last week. Like he said, they're pulling them over every maybe 10 minutes. They're stopping cars. Trying to get across now to Lake Cornelia is impossible, to walk, to bike. And a few years ago when the 70th Street project started, I pulled some numbers on what actually was going on 66th Street, and the swimming pool gets an average of 130,000 people visited that in the summer. 4th of July has 15,000 visitors, they figure, that use that park. The pavilion is rented out an average of almost every day, and in that month's time of the pavilion, about 800 people visit it. That's not including the baseball teams, the frisbee golf, the walkers, the people fishing, and all this traffic is now being diverted to 66th Street, which is our city park, not 70th Street in Arneson. And I'm really concerned about this summer for kids and everyone else in that area.
All right, thanks, Ms. Rizbicki. That's good to have that information. Anyone else for community comment? All right, Director Houle, do you want to comment about the startup of the construction project on West 70th Street and any strategies that have been discussed about maybe moving more traffic up Highway 100 to Crosstown and then around to Valley View?
Yep, Mayor and Council, as they say, the construction has started up on 70th Street. Actually, the gas company CenterPoint is going to be replacing their 24-inch main the entire length now. And before they were going to go from Cornelia to France Avenue and then leave the site to go to another project and then come back midsummer or so, but the other project fell through or something, and so they're going to replace it on the entire length, which is actually good and bad. One is that it does shuffle the traffic around within the neighborhood, and I look at the neighborhood being from 66 to Fred Richards Golf Course, as was described in our study area. It's a greater Cornelia neighborhood. So it does shuffle the traffic around that we've first anticipated doing in phases on 70th Street. So there is going to be a higher amount of traffic on some streets to begin with, but as the project goes on, it will level out. I won't say that there's not going to be a lot of traffic going up the frontage roads and on 66 for the entire duration, because there will be, because 70th Street will be shut down, and the folks that typically have gone through 70th Street will no longer be able to do that during the project until it's completed. I think what we've seen too is that on almost every one of our construction projects, when we shut down a roadway or say close to through traffic, is that we see it's got to go somewhere. So you're squeezing that balloon, and the sides of the balloon are bursting out here or bursting out there, but eventually it gets to equilibrium essentially on a traffic area. So I think, bear with us. We're responding, like I say, with the police in the area. We're kind of help educating people by stopping them, rolling through stop signs and such. We've been out there with some traffic counters to see what kind of speeds are going into the internal part of the neighborhood, to see if we have to do other measures to help out the local residents and such. But I don't have the smoking answer tonight to say, yeah, we're going to do this and you won't see anything. There's a couple of things though that I also need to mention. One is we are investigating to see if there is something we can do with the Minnesota Department of Transportation, see if there's something we can put out there. But dealing with the signage and how we're do the wayfinding and those types of things with the 169 494 project and what's allowed out on the freeways, I'm not too hopeful that we're going to be successful with them to get some signage out on Highway 100 in the crosstown. The other thing is I need to state though is that when we look at projects and when we have like water main breaks or other types of projects, our practice is to detour traffic that's on, let's say, a collector to another collector, and that's off of your functional classification map. And the frontage roads in West 66th Street are designated as collector roadways, and so we sign detours accordingly, and we'll never, and not say never, but virtually never move traffic from a collector to a local street. So we did look at some of the internal streets that you could get through the neighborhood, and we decided that it would be best to keep collector traffic on a collector itself.
Member Bennett.
Yes, Director Houle, has there been any effort made to contact the area businesses, especially in the Southdale area, and encourage the rerouting of deliveries and even employee commutes to stay on, for instance, Highway 62 or alternate routes so that it isn't directing all of the detour traffic or most of the detour traffic onto Normandale Road and then 66?
We haven't done that. We don't have an actual mailing list for that, but we'll try to attempt to, through the chamber and other folks, to try to do that. It's a very good suggestion to do it.
Member Swenson.
The other issue that was brought up that was important is the ability for people to cross 66th Street safely this summer, especially going to and from the pool from those neighborhoods that are on the south side of 66. Have we ever put up temporary four-way stop signs in situations like this to make sure that people can get across, or is that something that you worry about the safety factor? Because I am concerned about people trying to get over to their normal place, and if the traffic is, I've avoided that area, to be perfectly honest, knowing that it was construction, so luckily I don't have to ever go around there. I can go a lot of other places, but so I'm not really aware of what's happening on 66.
We will monitor that, and like I say, we'll start taking some counts and see if it meets some warrants to do some temporary stop signs.
Just so that we have at least one or two ways of getting safely across on either side of the lake.
And you also will see the in-roadway stop for people in crosswalks. And the other thing that people have to remember is that even though a crosswalk is not marked at an intersection, there is a crosswalk, and our law enforcement folks will be enforcing that. So if somebody sees somebody on a corner of an intersection waiting to cross, you have to stop for them, according to state statute. So they'll be out there, you know, they'll move from the speeds and rolling through stop signs up to 66th Street here shortly, I would suspect.
Member Brindle?
Do we know the origin of the cut-through traffic, whether it's coming from Highway 100 and then diverting on to Normandale to 66th? And if that's the case, I would like a really strong effort to keep those people on Highway 100, to say if you're going east, get on Crosstown and go east. Or if you're going east, get off on 77th and go east, in order to avoid 70th. So if we can get some signage to keep people off of that area, if in fact the bulk of the traffic is coming off of Highway 100, I don't think that would be unreasonable. I think, matter of fact, it would probably be safer for the driver as well as for the residents.
Yeah. I don't disagree. It's just trying to get the signage out on the freeways through MnDOT. I don't recall the percentage, but I would suspect that right now that the good percentage of the people are actually live within the neighborhood that can't get through 70th Street, that are going around to the north to get over to Cornelia Drive, West Shore Drive, those areas.
And the alternate route for them then would be recommended to go crosstown to Valley View, which is a lot easier than trying to get where they're going the way they're going.
And we will be doing a mass mailing to the neighborhood, the greater Cornelia neighborhood, by the end of this week, explaining traffic and using good sense and when you're driving for vehicle driver behavior, those types of things within the neighborhood.
Member Sprague.
Regarding 77th, I mean, it seems like a natural byway. It's 4 lanes, but it's still 30 miles an hour. What is the method to address and take another look at that speed on 77th? Because I think that it doesn't match the character of the roadway. Just like on 66, it was 35 and we dropped it down to 30 because it was residential. Here it's just the opposite. It's a commercial corridor, but it's 30, and it probably could be 35 to move more traffic through.
That is correct. You could move more traffic through. You do have at both ends, at Park Lawn and at Highway 100, that's where the congestion occurs. So I mean, in the straightaway, yeah, you could move traffic, but to get it through the major intersection at Highway 100, you couldn't get that much more traffic through that area. The process is for you folks to the council to order a speed study be done of the roadway through the Minnesota Department of Transportation. The Commissioner of Transportation is actually the only one that can actually set speeds, except for some situations that we discussed in the past. So they would have to do a speed study, and then they would look at the 85 percentile. But then they'd also look at the access points onto the roadway. In order to raise the speed limit, the access points would have to be further apart, essentially. And if you look at the Pentagon Park area, there's probably every couple 100 feet or so there's an access driveway out onto the roadway, which would keep it at the 30 mile an hour. When the Pentagon Park develops, if it redevelops, that might be a good opportunity to delete some of those or eliminate some of those access points, and then look at raising the speed limit a little bit through that area.
Anyone else? I've got a couple of questions. You talked about gathering data, meaningful data. How long will it take to gather meaningful data so that you can develop some strategies that are going to give some relief to the folks on Normandale?
Well, we've already been counting. We put down some tubes last week for internal to the neighborhood itself. But as far as the West 66 is what I referred to, as far as the data, as far as the intersections and maybe some temporary stop signs, we'll be doing that in the next week to 2 weeks here.
All right. And then I You know, we're trying to figure out how to deal with 14 to 16,000 vehicles a day that were using West 70th Street. Some of them were local, but I think the bulk of the movements were through movements. So this is a real concern, I think, over where Mr. Kane and Ms. Rusbicki live with families on the frontage road or in Normandale. So, you know, one thing I'm wondering is why we have a bit of a dance with MnDOT about whether or not we can put temporary signage on Highway 100. What would preclude us from putting signage by the church or even get their permission to put it by between the entrance ramp northbound and the Normandale frontage road, saying for non-local traffic, please use Highway 100 Crosstown and Valley View?
We can do it. My experience is when I've given folks an alternative route, they'll stay on that route. Remember when we did the signage on Daubrey Drive to keep people out of Parkwood Knolls, we said use Smetana, 11th Avenue. It actually increased the traffic on Daubrey Drive because people said, well, they obviously don't want us to cut through here because this is a good cut through. We can try it, but I won't guarantee that it's going to drop down traffic.
Yeah, but I think the important thing is to try a few things so that, you know, that folks realize we're trying to manage this construction project and not be too disruptive of their lives. Yeah, I think so, Mr. King. Come on back up. We need. Don't talk yet. We need you up here.
I gotta go home.
629 Normandale. Just to your point, Mayor, if somebody's on Highway 100, giving them the option of knowing that 70th is shut down, that's the real thing. It's the education side of it also, because we've had some people actually go up the one way, turn around, and go back down. And they're like, wait a second, we can't be here. So we're seeing that there's some confusion. So if they know that 70th is not available to them, they're not going to get off there. Okay. So that's the other thing. So if they know on Highway 100, that's a helpful thing as they're driving along.
Well, let us talk to the Metro District Engineer and see, and then go from there. And we know him pretty well.
Thanks for your
Director
help.
Hull and I have worked with him. We'll do what we
appreciate it.
We'll start working on it. Well, we'll keep trying here. Thank you.
I also don't want to give you false hopes on this. If you recall, when we got permission to shut down the free right, the only reason why we got the permission was there wasn't that many people making that right. It was the high speeds that people were coming off on that free right. We can sign that. We'll try our best to sign that, but I don't want to say by putting that sign up that you're going to have less traffic going up your frontage road.
Yeah, well, I think I appreciate the comment you made earlier, and that was there's no silver bullet here. But we could develop a number of smaller strategies that could take away some of the pain. So, okay. Thanks. Thanks, folks, for coming in.
I'm sorry, Director Hull, just one follow-up question on that. Where have the trucks been going? Like the big commercial trucks that used to roll down 70th, are those coming down the side streets, the detour, or are they staying on the regional system?
I haven't asked that question from folks that where the actual trucks are. If you know where they're going, I guess it'd be nice that you could tell me that where they're going, but to give that input. But I have not heard from them. When we first shut it down, there was some trucks that were going down 70th beyond, around the road closed signs and down Cornelia Drive to the south of 72nd Street, but I believe those have been corrected. So I would suspect that it got back to their dispatching, that any trucks that were going towards the south area are staying on the regional system.
Thank you. All right, we need to move on. Thanks, folks. And next matter, we're moving to the public hearing section of the agenda. The first and only matter on the public hearing agenda is the certification of delinquent utilities. Requires a roll call vote. We've done this periodically. It's a new strategy of the council, and it looks like, at least with respect to one of these folks in our community or businesses, it's not working real well. All right.
Tonight is a public hearing on certification of delinquent utility bills. This is a first time through for this cycle. Typically, this is something that is done with a public hearing in October, where we send out notices in September, the actual certification date being the end of November. Under state statute, Minnesota Statute 444, it allows cities to charge against the owner, lessee, occupant, or all of them, may provide a covenant for certifying unpaid charges to the county auditor with taxes against the property served for collection as other taxes are collected. The city code has 3 different sections, one for water, sewer, and storm sewer. If payment is not received within the time period provided in the notice, or if a resolution of delinquent bill is not reached, the city may certify the delinquent balance to the county auditor. For this purpose, we sent out notices. We chose a balance of $2,000 and over, and delinquent 30 days or longer. Again, we notified them in writing about just after the meeting a month ago, where we called for the public hearing. Customers, as again, this follows the same statute, the same wording in the statute 444 as what we go through in October. Customers will continue to have 30 days to pay before it is actually certified to the county, so they will have until June 3rd to pay their balance, and at which point, if they're still on the list, the list will be sent to the county. A $30 administrative fee will be added, and then a 6.5% interest rate will be charged on the assessments, and these are one-year assessments. Again, the certification does not take the place of the October certification hearing. Typically, that hearing is for balances over $50, and typically includes several hundred accounts that are delinquent at that time. This one, we noticed 3 different, we sent notices to 3 properties. There was also an ad in the paper approximately 2 weeks ago. The first property is a foreclosed property. Second property, Mr. Sabri, is a property that is typically on our list. It's been certified at least the past couple of years. And the third property also has been on our list the past 2 years, but obviously is a much larger. The third property has this on all 3 cases. These are 3/4 of delinquent, so they would have had a current balance last October when we were going through the process. That is now delinquent, as well as 2 additional quarters. So recommendation, adopt resolution 2011-54, certifying this list of 3 properties to the Hennepin County Auditor for collection. This would happen for the 2012 property taxes. It wouldn't become a tax lien until the end of the year, but it would be on the county's books as a special assessment that is pending. Yes.
I thought we had a discussion on this before. You have the ability to turn off the water.
Yes, we have the ability. We do that right now, just with a couple of properties that are in Richfield. We could look at any of these properties if you wish to.
Well, the empty houses turning off the water isn't going to do much good until they sell them, and then if they want it turned on, which I guess then turn it off, because when they go to sell the house, they have to have the water turned on to inspect it and to close. But for the third one that's still doing business, I don't know why we're providing water for them to do business at this amount and certifying them, to be perfectly honest. Manager, Neil, do you have any other experience with it? I'm just kind of shocked that we're going through this whole certification thing.
It's the 3rd time with them.
With them, when to me the easiest thing is to say, if you want to do business in a community, you have to pay your water bill.
Clearly, we need to have some kind of official dialogue with them, not just paper dialogue. But I think part of the rationale for trying to work something out with them is that if we shut them off, then we assure ourselves that we'll never be paid. At least if we are in some kind of relationship with them, they have the opportunity to pay their bill at some point in the future.
They had, the last payment we received was last summer, last July. It was not a full payment. They had been making some partial payments the first part of last year. Again, the last payment they did make was last July.
Well, then, to me, the paper part of it isn't getting us partial payments, and it's not like we're going to, you know, there's a certain point where I say, okay, we've lost enough money on this deal. I'm there.
I think that was $100,000 ago. I mean, if it's $117,000.
Excuse me, but I didn't mean to interrupt, but this is a lien on the property. So in other words, you know, the property right now is
Oh, I get the value of putting the lien on the
Right.
property, because then when it
Yeah.
gets sold, we'll get paid.
Right.
But, so we put a lien on the property, and they keep going into the hole, and now we're talking about, you know, 6 months from now, $250,000, and we have a lien on their property.
It's true, because now it's becoming a significant percentage of the overall value of the
Yeah.
property, right?
Yes,
So it's not
thank you.
it's
Thank
not
you
a
for pointing that out.
$2,000 delinquent water bill on a $500,000 house. It's much different than that.
Is there a policy or something that kicks in at a certain point where we stop?
From my discussion with Mr. Wallen and Mr. Houle, I don't think we don't have a history of turning off service for non-payment. Is that correct?
That's correct. This is a very unusual situation where this large of a customer is this delinquent. In fact, in my time, there's never been anything anywhere as close to this.
I think we gave you permission, though, if I remember correctly. Jody, you must have been on the council. It's within your time frame that you could shut water off at a certain time, and so I guess
The time has come.
for me, the time's come.
Let's go to Member Brindle first.
I have a question. Because I remember a year ago, the total on this same water customer was over $100,000. It probably was over $120,000, as I recall, a year ago. So this is a different year and a different accrual, right? So that last year they had, let's say, 120. Now this is a new 117,000.
That's correct.
Okay, so this number starts when? Does it start in January? Does it start last July? When does this number start?
This probably was usage back in last July, August. And so this would start with their usage sometime around that July, August period. This would have been, as a city council was going through the regular process of certification, this would have been a current bill.
Okay, so if they paid a partial bill last July, was the remainder of that bill from last year certified?
Yes.
Onto their property taxes?
Yes.
Okay, so do we ever see that money then? How do we see that money?
Do we?
It's just a lien on their property.
It's just a lien on their property, so we never see it.
So
Really, we see little bits of it.
It comes to us, they paid, and they are delinquent on their 2010 taxes. So they have not fully paid their 2010 taxes. The certification you did last fall was for the 2011 taxes. So that would add portion of their 2010 taxes with the total balance of what we certified in 2010, payable 2011. Plus the balance that's in front of you tonight.
So what we've got here is a situation where it's going to be a long time before, I mean, they'll never catch up as far as we're concerned. We will never be paid in full for what they're using at any term. So I do think that, I mean, that's $117,000 in a budget where we are scrounging around trying to do things that are essential for our entire community, and we got one customer just kind of using us, if you will, and I'll go out on a limb by saying that because, I mean, I'm familiar with this customer. They have they do a business, and they do a good business. I've done business there, but not since I started seeing numbers like this. But anyway, nonetheless, I think it's fair to say that I think we really need to lean on this customer and say, this just isn't fair.
Mayor, members of the council, if I could just chime in a second. The way you would eventually collect it was when they don't pay it. It's a delinquency, and you don't pay your taxes, eventually the property would go tax forfeit.
As long as it's sold for enough to cover the forfeit.
And there's a concern right now that there wouldn't be enough to cover the amount.
Because they have other liens.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes, there's also just regular
Yeah.
taxes there as well.
Yeah.
do we have priority over, who do we have priority over? I guess that's a good question.
There's a complicated formula that was written by, as far as I can tell, by the counties.
But do we have priority over any mortgage holder?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. But what most communities would do, or what you may want to consider doing, is if you want to cut off the water, we have to go through a little process. You have to give them notice, an opportunity to be heard, to give them due process. So what normally we would do is, make contact, talk to them, put an ad in the paper, give them personal notice, mailed notice, have a public hearing, and shut off the water.
So moved.
Oh, we got a public hearing here, so hold off on the motion for a little bit yet. And I did spend the time today finding out who was the owner of the building. It's a company called Waldorf Development Services, LLP. The owners' names are here. I'll pass this to the city manager. One lives in Hamel. They're brothers, it looks like. And the other one lives in Minneapolis. So, were you finished with your presentation?
Yes, I am.
All right.
It's a public hearing.
Let's let anybody come forward that wishes to testify regarding this matter.
I move to close the public hearing.
So moved and seconded, we close the public hearing. Discussion. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Do we have a motion regarding?
So move this resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we adopt Resolution 2011-54, which authorizes the certification of delinquent utility charges to the Hennepin County Auditor. Further discussion. Is this a roll call?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is.
Member Sprague?
Aye.
Member Swenson?
Aye.
Member Bennett?
Aye.
Member Brindle?
Aye.
Mayor Hovland?
Aye. Now, is there a motion to authorize the city manager to proceed with the process described by the city
So
attorney?
moved.
Second.
All right. Discussion. All those in favor of authorizing the city manager to discuss with our city attorney the establishment of a process to allow the Waldorf Nevins Cleaners Company to appear, and we will proceed with a collection effort against them, or shut the water off.
Right.
All right. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay.
We will proceed tomorrow.
Carried. All right, here is the ownership information for the LLP. May be helpful. And now, we are in reports and recommendations. First matter is request to purchase training center fire tower upgrades. Chief Shearer.
I'm here to request the joint purchase of some training fire simulators at the South Metro Public Safety Training Facility near Braemar. This would be a joint purchase with our neighbors Bloomington and City of Eden Prairie. They have already committed the funding for this project, and this fire project is for fire simulators in the fire tower. We do have a simulator on the first floor already. We've had good luck with that since the building was completed in 2003, I believe. And this sixth floor burner was part of the original project, and it was removed from the project due to budgetary restraints. The building was constructed to accommodate the burners on the sixth floor, and they are now proposed to be designed. we'd like to recommend this purchase. I think it's a good value for our money. You know, we're paying about $132,000 to get a $550,000 project. I do apologize for this not being in this capital improvement plan. It's always been discussed about being in the capital improvement plan, but we never had a time frame of when it was going to be a purchase item. And just this year, the Joint Powers Board that runs the training center approved the recommendation to move forward on that. So we're trying to move forward. This purchase would be used, go through the capital improvement plan, and if we move forward, I'd recommend that we use 2010 budget surplus dollars to help fund the project. We've had really good luck with the simulators. We estimate that the technology will last approximately 20 years. That's the hardware, which is the bulk of the project. There's some software that goes with it that will probably last about 5 to 10 years. Let me see if there's anything else for you.
Why is this important, do you think, Chief, to do this?
Well, it's extremely important. You know, there's no high-rise fire simulators in the state of Minnesota at all. We have very limited training in high-rise fires. They're some of the most dangerous fires that we'll encounter, and we do have a number of high-rise buildings in our city. And this not only trains our firefighters, but also our mutual aid partners, which we train with and work with, and that would respond to fires in our city. So potentially we'll, you know, the additional training will save lives, buildings, firefighters, and prevent injuries.
And our partners, Bloomington and Eden Prairie, have already approved this.
That's correct.
Purchase. All right, Member Sprague.
Mr. Scheer, is there any revenue that can be produced from this venture? I mean, can we rent this out to other municipalities to use and then collect back some of our investment?
Mr. Mayor, Member Sprague, that's correct. We do rent out the facility. It's rather expensive. I don't recall the dollar amount, several $100s per hour. The way the Joint Powers agreement is that money goes back to the facility and then it's used to reduce operating costs generally.
Other question, Member Swenson.
If I remember correctly, when this was first built, we gave the land and everybody else paid for the building to be built. Was that correct?
Member Swenson, Mr. Mayor, that's partially correct. It was about as I recall, about a $7 million project. We gave the land and around $300,000, but the bulk of the financing was done through City of Bloomington, City of Eden Prairie, and the Metropolitan Airports Commission.
So at that time when this was part of the original one, but we didn't do it at the time, is this always then going to be the plan that we pay a percentage, but a much higher percentage than what we paid the first time around? Because I would have preferred that this would have been built on the first time around because that percentage was a lot less.
Right. Actually, you know, our percentage is the same. Our percentage, we were given the land value credit at the time.
Okay.
So we still paid roughly 20% of the cost of the building, but most of the cost was absorbed through the land.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. That's clear.
Member Brundle.
I just want to clarify the share of the cost and how this works. Bloomington approved this already, did they?
Yes, they did.
Okay, for
approximately a month ago.
$225,000.
Correct.
And the City of Eden Prairie approved it already for $192,000.
Correct.
And now our action tonight, if we choose to do so, is to approve our $132,000. Now, the difference in the numbers is based on the size of our fire departments, of our relative fire departments?
Member Brindle and Mr. Mayor, that's correct. It's based on a full-time equivalent of the number of firefighters.
Okay.
And we have the smallest number of firefighters.
And there is already a simulator there, and I'm really asking this just for clarification so people understand. There's already a simulator there that's on first floor.
Correct.
And the significance of this going on sixth floor is the fact that it isn't on first floor, is it allows you to have something that's upstairs in a building or higher in a tower.
Member Brindle, Mr. Mayor, once again, it is, yes, but it's different. This one is very different, has flashovers and many other things that occur in a high-rise versus what would happen on a ground floor fire. So there's quite a bit of difference in the type of simulator and type of burner units that would be available in there.
Okay, thank you. I do know folks who are, one good friend of ours is a firefighter in Bloomington, and he regards the training that he gets at this facility as top rate. He's a fire investigator around the country as well, and has just high marks for this place.
Thank you. I will comment that, and thank you for your support in this project all along. It's probably the premier fire training center in the state. It's an excellent facility. It's not only used by us, but a lot of federal agencies use it. The FBI, the air marshals, quite a few people. Our revenue for rental is probably 3 times what we expected it to be originally in our original numbers. So our costs remain low because our rental rates remain high, and this would help keep our rental rates high and keep our costs down.
Other questions for the chief?
Chief Scheer, back to the revenue. So currently, the revenue we take in covers about how much of the total operating expenses for the facility each year?
You know, I don't have the total budget here, but I'll shoot from the hip, and maybe Manager Neal can help me out. I believe our total operating budget is roughly in the $250,000 range. Does that sound right, Mr. Neal? And I think 280, and I believe we bring in about over $80,000 to $90,000 in revenue per year, somewhere in that range. So
is 280 our portion of the total operating expenses?
And we pay about we pay about 20% of the operating expenses.
Okay, now so it costs $280,000 to operate this facility each year, and we pay 20% of that cost, and it brings in $80,000 in revenue, and that's shared according to our prorated percentages.
Right. The facility is managed by a joint powers agreement that the 4 parties agreed to at the establishment of the facility, and the operating costs are shared on formulas that are based on the number of police officers and number of firefighters. And those formulas, I don't think have been changed since the establishment. There's a process to change them based on changes in staffing levels, but
okay.
The Metropolitan Airports Commission is also a party, an owner party to this facility as well.
Okay.
And however, their fire department is not part of the organization, only their police. So Airport MAC Fire does not share in fire related capital costs.
If I may, I'll add one correction. I apologize, Scott, but the formula is recalculated yearly.
It is
recalculated yearly based on full-time equivalents. Right. And so the yearly operating cost includes police officers as well. This fire tower, the Joint Powers Board decided would be based on strictly on firefighters who would use the facility. The training tower, the police do not use the burning parts of the tower. They do use the tower quite a bit, but not the fire simulators.
Thank you.
And again, Chief Scheer, those revenues for rental of the facility bring in about $80,000 to $90,000 per year. That in turn is used to offset the total operating costs of $280,000 a year, thereby reducing the share that our city pays for those operating
Correct.
expenses.
And I don't want you, but some of that money is not always used for operating costs. A portion of that money, and a smaller portion, is used for capital expenses for future repairs, things like that, a small amount of that.
Chief, stick around for a minute, even though we will vote.
Sure.
I want to have you tell our residents about the cardiac outcome study.
Sure. Would you like me to do that now?
Let's do this first.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Any other questions for the chief on this matter? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion. All right. Discussion? All those in favor of adopting 7A and approving this acquisition or this expenditure, say aye.
8A.
Excuse me, 8A. And approving this expenditure for the fire training, fire tower upgrade, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Now, you gave me some remarkable information last week, right before the State of the City, with regard to cardiac outcomes, and that has its own definition. As I recall, right. Somebody is able to walk out of the hospital on their own or with a little bit of assistance, but they are walking out of the hospital, getting out of the hospital. So why don't you tell the council about where we stood on that cardiac outcome, that nationwide study.
Sure, I'll be glad. I'm sorry I didn't bring the data with me, but I think I have it memorized pretty well. First of all, thank you for your support. This cardiac arrest study also is partially due to you. You guys support the fire department, the police department, and everyone very well, and so this outcome of this cardiac arrest study is also your responsibility. So this is called a CARE study, a cardiac arrest respiratory I don't have the acronym quite down, but it's a nationwide study done by the Centers for Disease Control, American Heart Association, and Emory University. And what they really were measuring, it was a voluntary study, and it was conducted over the year of 2010, looking at cardiac arrest nationwide. And they were trying to measure a couple things. The main thing is how many people, what percentage of people that have sudden cardiac arrest in your community will survive and walk out of the hospital healthy. And it was done nationwide. Hennepin County did very well in the study, one of the best in the regions. And I'm happy to say the city of Edina came out #1 in the country. So we had the best cardiac arrest rate of anywhere in the country. I believe the national average is about 7.8% of the people that have sudden cardiac arrest walk out of the hospital healthy. Hennepin County had about a 15% ratio, and we had a 27% number. And if that number, if that is a witness cardiac arrest, which really means that we get there quicker, and it's because the other cardiac arrests of people could be had a cardiac arrest an hour before we get there, something like that. But the witness cardiac arrest, it's much more impressive. There, we're once again #1, and we're saving about 74% of the people that we see. So a good number there is about 20%, but we're saving about 74%.
What I remember you telling me is Hennepin County was twice as good as the national average on saves. We were twice as good as Hennepin County, and you were 252 times more likely to survive in Edina than you were against the national average.
Correct, yeah.
And we were #1 in the country.
Our numbers were very astounding and very, very high, and we have a really outstanding crew of people, not only police and fire, but our hospitals all play a role, dispatchers, everybody. So it's a really, really good number to have.
Congratulations to
very
you,
proud of it. Thank you.
Police Department, Fairview Southdale, and please congratulate all your folks for us.
Thank you, and once again, we want to thank you for your support of our services as well. So thank you very much.
Okay. Next item is the proposed policy for recording and broadcasting city commission meetings. We're going to continue that again, as I understand it. Is there a motion to continue that to?
Second.
All right. Been moved and seconded. We table 8B until a to-be-determined subsequent date. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. Next is 8C, resolution accepting various donations. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Discussion. All those in favor of resolution 2011-52 say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Carried. Donations this reporting period are to the Edina Arts Center, Public Works, and for the Public Works Open House. And those donors' names will be shown on the city website in a few days. Next matter is 8D, appointment of a city council member to the Southwest Suburban Communications Cable Commission. Manager Neal.
Thank you, Your Honor. The City of Edina is part of a 5-city cable television consortium called the Southwest Cable Commission. Other cities in that consortium include Eden Prairie, Minnetonka, Richfield, Hopkins. There are 2 representatives from each city that are a member of the governing board of the consortium, and those members are in all case set by the joint powers agreement that governs the organization. But each member from each city, there is the city manager and an elected official from each city comprise the board. Our current members are, by definition, are myself and Scott Hausch, Councilmember Hausch, is still listed as one of the members from the city of Edina. He is no longer on the council, of course, and so we need to have a replacement appointed to the commission by the city council. And so we've prepared the paperwork for that to happen, but left blanks in the appropriate spot for you to choose who you would like to attend. This commission meets twice each year, once in the spring and once in the fall, typically on a Wednesday afternoon and typically at about 4 in the afternoon. This year I could foresee a special meeting in the middle of the summer because we are in the midst of renewing the franchise, the cable franchise that governs all cable activities and revenues and costs for the cities involved, at least in those 5 cities. Most of the administrative work is done by a very bright lawyer from Moss and Barnett named Brian Grogan. Brian happens to be a national authority on cable television and does television franchise work all over the country. He happens to be based at Moss and Barnett downtown, so we're very fortunate to have him. But he and his staff do the work of what would be normally considered the administrator for the consortium, and they're paid from the cable television revenues from the 5 cities. We all have a pro rata share of the costs of that organization.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the council that's particularly interested in the cable? No. Member Swenson? All right. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Moved and seconded that we appoint Councilmember Ann Swenson to the Southwest Suburban Communications Cable Commission. Boy, that's an alliterative name. Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Carried. Correspondence and petitions. Anything other than what was provided for us? Okay. Thank you. Mayor and council comments. Member Brindle this week. We will start with you.
All right, thank you. Just a couple things. A few things that I have become aware of. We had a volunteer recognition reception last Thursday, and one of the members of the Energy and Environment Commission stopped by with one of the plastic plates and one of the plastic forks and said, "Haven't we learned?" So I would encourage us to think about the disposable things that we use to make them compostable and recyclable. And when it's a catered event, encourage the caterer to provide those for us. And I think that would be a good thing. I believe it was mentioned even that evening that events at the high school, if they use disposable tableware, it's required to be compostable and recyclable. So maybe that's something we can consider for our use. And then the other thing I have is one other thing I became aware of. We're going to have an election this fall that's focused around the school district. And a number that caught my attention is, in this regards the school district, not the city specifically, but the amount of money that the school district allocates per student to technology in Edina is $122 per student toward technology. Now, looking at neighboring districts, going as far out as Wayzata in the west, I didn't look in the east, but neighboring districts in our area are as high as $655 per student. So we are low on the scale. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to see what the referendum is this fall, if in fact there is one on the ballot, and hope that as a community we can get behind that. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Member Bennett.
Thank you. This has been a busy last couple of weeks, and in order just, I guess, of no action versus requesting future action, I and others attended the groundbreaking for the Whole Foods Market. That was a wonderful event and a nice celebration of a new business in our community. I think it will be a real strong business in the Centennial Lakes area. I also attended the Reflection on Bullying event that was held, sponsored by the Human Rights and Relations Commission at the high school, and it was an excellent, very worthwhile event. I understand that they're going to be looking to continue that in other formats in the future. Plus, we did during community comment this evening hear from our resident Ellen Kennedy about an effort. So I think it's the front end of education on an issue that has been around for years, and I think people are becoming more aware of it and more aware of the necessity to address it. Also attended the volunteer recognition and am impressed, as always, with the dedication and talent that we have in our community and people who are so willing to give of their time to make the community a better place for their neighbors and others. Last Saturday, attended the Homeless Youth in Suburbia morning workshop that was sponsored jointly by the League of Women Voters and also Bloomington Public Health, held in Bloomington. Wonderful turnout for that, about 150 in the audience, and there will, I think, be future on that as well. In fact, I would like to ask that it be a topic for the joint City Council School Board meeting. One of the things that we learned during the discussions that morning was that as much as groups in the community are trying to provide drop-in centers and information, what really is missing is beds. And the number that I took away was 59 beds. That's all in the metro area. I'm not sure of what, if anything, is available outstate. 50 of those roughly are newer, but one of the big problems is that when these young people do approach school social workers, school administrators, local churches for help, there just are no beds. And even volunteer families, while a very good resource, if the youth is under the age of 18, there's foster care licensure required, so that some center with set supervision that's undergone a licensing and review process really is an essential answer, as well as housing for youth over the age of 18. And not every youth, it was emphasized, is an appropriate person for an in-home placement, for instance, with a volunteer family. So the need goes on, and I think that if our school board and city council can discuss this jointly, what we might be doing in partnering with other communities to provide a resource. Attended the Holocaust Day of Remembrance event held here at City Hall on Sunday, and I thought it was a wonderful first event. The survivor comments were so interesting and heartfelt, and really emphasized not only learning about the past and learning from the past, but also having hope for change for the future, and what we as members of our community, what we as a community can do to work to prevent this from happening again. I also attended the State of the Community address, was one of many hearing that, and very, very well-attended event. This is another request or recommendation. I would like to request that there be some look at making it a free and public event. I heard from some people on Tuesday night that said, gee, we'd like to come to something like that, but the thought of paying for a lunch was daunting. We also might look at different venues. Now that we've been partnering with the school district, or the mayor and others have been partnering with the school district, it might be nice to locate it between school district venues and city venues, and finally some experimentation maybe with times of day from year to year, so that we make it possible for as many people in our community to attend as we can. Lastly, I am requesting that we continue to look at scheduling a town hall meeting. I believe the last one that we held was in April of last year, and I know that we get requests for having more of that Q&A permitted, or for people to be able to make more informal comments.
Yeah, good thought.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Sprague.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm grateful we're operating under this new agenda. I thought it worked out really well, and it's great to have the community comment moved up. And I just wanted to emphasize to people out there that there's another way for you to get involved and get your word to all of the council, and that is through written email. You can send an email to edinamail@ci.edina.mn.us, and I want to tell you about the timing of it. If you send it by 12 noon on the Friday preceding a council meeting, it will go in this packet called correspondence, which goes in this folder, and then it's delivered to my house by the police on Friday night, so I get the whole weekend to read it. If it's delivered after 12 o'clock on Friday, it goes in this, which is a supplemental packet that's on the dais here on Tuesday, the night of the meeting. So I encourage people, don't just send me an email, send it to the entire council. We only have authority to act as one body, and it will be a way for you to get your ideas and thoughts under all of our noses. Secondly, we were talking about TIF a few weeks ago in a work session, also tonight, and I know that part of the idea is to make the Southdale corridor and the greater Southdale area a stronger place for transportation and for economic development. And Mayor mentioned the France Avenue corridor study that was done, and I know that there's some renderings and some other reports out there. And we had an idea to perhaps use some of the TIF money for a pedestrian bridge. That's something that's been bantered about. I would like to move that we direct the ETC to take a look at the France Avenue corridor more holistically and see what the options may be for improving that corridor. I see this as kind of a phase 2 to any Southdale improvements. And it's a good time to be taking a look at it. It's very relevant to the strategic work we're doing with Southdale. So I would like to move that we refer that matter to the ETC.
I would second that.
Discussion? Could Director Hull, would you comment on the timing of something like this? I know that we've got good folks on the ETC, on the Transportation Commission. And I'm just wondering if there's a better time, or is this a good time?
Mayor and Council, if we could, I'd like to bring this back to a staff level and then discuss it at a staff level to see it'd be interesting to know what level of detail you're looking for that corridor, two, what it would be the potential cost, because there's going to be costs as far as engineering studies, those types of things, as far as gathering information, or is this more of a pulling together previous studies and bringing it back and then having the ETC's comment on the previous studies?
Yep. So kind of a review of past ideas and bringing that forward in a more current, into a more current time frame. Living Streets has come forward. There's Complete Streets has been out there, and I think while they're studying those ideas, they may have some other strategies to use in order to approach improvements in the corridor. So I know that there's some interest on the ETC itself as well as looking into this, and it just seems timely to me not to spend a lot of money doing an independent study, but to have them review it themselves.
If that's the case, then our expectations are set.
Correct.
Of not hiring a consulting firm to go out and study, then I'd say, yeah.
Correct.
Bring it forward.
Yep. Exactly.
All right. Other council comment? It sounds good. Thank you. All those in favor of the motion stated to send the France Avenue corridor study to the ETC for further review and comment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Anything else?
Thank you, Council. Also, we've been working on the streamlining of our organization, the administration, our boards and commissions, the council's chart of work, and it makes me think another area worthy of follow-up is our ordinances, and we've talked about recodification before. I would like to see that included in this year's budget for our review. I think it's timely with all the other structural improvements that we're doing to make the City of Edina a more efficient and effective organization. Finally, a little community calendar. This weekend, the YMCA Southdale is having the gala on Saturday, May 6th, at the Opus Northwest. On May 21st, the Edina Education Fund is having an event. It's a 1-mile run at Roslyn Park. It's free for kids 5 and under, and it's their final event of the year. And June 15th is the Edina Public Art Committee's Edina Promenade Sculpture Kickoff. The mayor is going to be giving a short speech at 5 o'clock on the Promenade Gateway. followed by refreshments and conversation at Pinstripes. And you can also circulate on the promenade, take a look at some of the new structures, and vote for your People's Choice Award. They actually select 3 People's Choice Award winners once the voting is concluded. Thank you.
Good comments. Thank you. Covering a little bit of ground here that's been plowed before. Member Bennett said it well when she said this has been a busy couple of weeks. The Whole Foods groundbreaking on the 20th of April, that was very interesting, and some of the conversations I had with one of the developers' reps indicated that we could expect more activity around the Whole Foods project, that they typically have other retailers trailing in behind Whole Foods, and so I think we can expect some other activity in that particular part of our town. Also had a TAB meeting on the 20th that I attended on behalf of the city. And then on the 21st was the Southwest LRT Community Works meeting. Both Member Brindle and I were there. That, of course, is the organization that's looking at the land use and economic development implications of the Southwest LRT line. And then that evening, Sotheby's opened its new real estate office in the basement of Galleria, so I attended that as well. I hope that Member Sprague won't hold that against me as a guy who works for Coldwell
All in the
Banker.
name of economic development.
I did see the head of Coldwell Banker there, Coldwell Banker's office there as well, and Edina Realty as well. So the Reflections on Bowling event on the 26th was very worthwhile. I'm glad our community took a lead on that. The Edina Community Foundation, Human Rights and Relations Commission, and other entities sponsoring it did a great job. Member Bennett, you are prescient about the state of the community that I was part of, along with Manager Neal and Superintendent Dressen. We are going to be meeting to talk about a new venue, and we are talking about the Performing Arts Center. And while folks did not have to pay to attend this chamber-related event that also sponsored the state of the community, I think it was awkward for people who may have wanted to come and didn't want to buy lunch and sit in a room full of people who had paid for lunch. And I just think it's an awkward setting, and we're going to try to get back to that public setting, and we'll look at the timing of it as well. So thank you for that suggestion. You were thinking along the same lines. And then that same day I had a Southwest LRT Management Committee. That's distinguished from the Southwest LRT Community Works Committee. That's the team led by the Met Council that's overseeing that whole project. So some interesting reports on park and ride facilities and some other things that are going to be important as we advance the ball on that project. The volunteer recognition event on the 28th, I had a question for Jennifer. Will the Mayor's Awards be posted on the website, or have they been posted? Might be nice for those award winners to know that they're being recognized beyond just the event itself.
Annually, we publish a press release listing all of the winners that will go out later this week. And in addition, we did film the event, and that will be televised beginning later this week. And that, of course, will also be available on Granicus and on our YouTube channel.
Okay, thank you. On the 29th, I went to the MSP, what we call the MSP Regional Cluster Initiative. We're working on some economic development strategies there, developing along the Michael Porter at Harvard cluster lines for enhancing economic development activities in the region, headed by this new medical device cluster that the mayors are working on, which I think will get some legs. On the first, the Day of Remembrance, the council had passed a resolution on that. That was Sunday afternoon. A really heart-wrenching talk by Fred Barron from Golden Valley, who is a Holocaust survivor, 88 years old now, but did a beautiful job in communicating his thoughts, being a young man from Vienna who was interred at both Auschwitz and one other facility. Bergen-Belsen, thank you. And then Member Sprague made me think about Taste of Edina, which is on the 12th of May. Everybody should know about that. That'll be held down at the Hughes Pavilion. And on the 30th, we had all kinds of activities. Highway cleanup for the Rotary Club, Then I went over to the session that Member Bennett was at, the homeless youth in suburbia. I was there for a while. This number of beds question is really interesting. And I got to thinking about the role of the Y, or the potential role of the Y in maybe being able to set up as part of their operation.
They do that in Anoka, well, actually northwest Hennepin County. In Anoka, they have Point Northwest.
All right. Well, maybe we can have a discussion about that sometime, see if that has any merit. And then two other things. York Avenue is just in terrible condition. I know it's not our road, it's the county's road, but I don't know if people understand that. And maybe there's some things that are going to be going on there, but it's a pothole paradise over there.
Yep, I believe, Mayor, that it's going to be milled and overlaid this summer.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. You know, in conjunction with that, we might want to visit with Jim Grube, the engineer for Hennepin County, about his offer last summer to provide all the landscaping to redo all those medians, which would be a beautification project for the Southdale district. And then he said they'd do it and put them in if we could pick the landscape material, and then we had to maintain it, but they would be willing to do that. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was Jean White. And I found out about this thanks to Member Bennett. I had known that she was ill, died of ovarian cancer, only 57 years old. Was on the Edina Transportation Commission for several years. Just a fabulous community volunteer. She always made me feel guilty on the weekends when I was out at Braemar golfing, and I'd see her up there ripping out buckthorn from the brush as I was enjoying myself recreating with golf. It's really, and then she drove the hospitality cart out there too for several years, and it was always a delight to see her. So we're going to miss her in our community. She was just a great Edina resident, and thank you for and her family. Thanks for sharing her with us, and our best to all of you that survive her. So that's it on my list. Manager Neal, Member Bennett, you thought of something else?
I did attend that service yesterday, and there was a huge, huge crowd. It was really heartwarming to see how many lives she had touched in the community. And then I did want to respond to a piece of correspondence that we had received. I had also had some individual contact from that resident this week, and that is about the housing improvement areas. We had a discussion, actually a work session about this last year. It is a tool for preservation of existing housing that is used in some of our neighboring communities, not all. And as I recall, when we held our discussion last year with a report provided by then Manager Hughes and also Joyce Repia of the Planning Department, we had a division, some division of opinion on it, but we were committed to gaining more information. And one of the things that we requested was a joint meeting with the City Council of the City of St. Louis Park to discuss their experience with this. And I would like to request that we look into that again and look at whether or not this would be a tool for some assistance to some of our, with some of our more relatively affordable housing in Edina.
No, I concur with that. I think that we should revisit that issue. There are several condominium projects in our community, I think, that might want to take advantage of this. I think it does warrant another look. I don't know if you ever used that in Eden Prairie as a tool, but they've used it successfully in St. Louis Park.
Mayor, can you just talk about that for a
Sure.
moment? Just what is the tool?
State statute permits cities to create what are called housing improvement areas. The city, for associations that meet certain guidelines, you can set as a city your rules for the threshold of agreement that among the different condominium owners. So you can set it high enough that the groundwork of forming consensus within that condominium association can be reached before it's brought to city. Then the city uses its bonding authority to, probably through HRA, to obtain lower cost financing for things. The city could limit it to things like roofs, furnaces, windows, in other words, health and safety projects, and then the homeowners the condominium owners are paying this back through property tax and assessments. So for some condominium associations with more limited means, it permits them to make improvements to structurally sound buildings with more relatively affordable units and spread that over something that, again, uses the city's taxing authority.
Conduit financing, sort of? Okay.
Okay.
It's a good explanation. Yeah. We had a condominium association come forward a couple of years ago, I think, and inquire about the fact that they thought this might be a useful tool for them when they needed all new windows, and they didn't have a sufficient reserve to cover it, and wanted to know if we would look at it. We did do some preliminary investigating, and then it just kind of faded away, but I think we should look at it again and see if it makes sense for our community.
It makes, in many of those situations, it's very difficult for the condo association. I've done it with, seen done with townhomes and other projects. It's hard for them to get financing because getting a mortgage on, what are you getting a mortgage on? You know, it becomes almost impossible. So you sped up this district and you can get financing that way.
Does this come up a lot when you've got a lot of foreclosures in the building and the association has no money left over, because they don't have 10 or 15 units out of 50 not paying anymore? And does it come up in that scenario?
I'm sure it does. I haven't personally dealt with it in that situation. I've usually dealt with it in situations where they can't get the financing because what can you get a mortgage on? And you couldn't get a mortgage on much of anything, and then they don't have enough time to raise the revenue they need to just finance with cash on hand. So since they can't get a mortgage, and then they come to the city, and you can look at providing, basically providing financing, and it goes back to them in the form of a charge against the property tax.
Seems like there's a lot of second-generation condo building. I mean, I'm not sure what the number is, but we have quite a few.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, out in that Cahill corridor, there were a few out there that I think were considering this as a tool. All right. Manager Neal.
Thank you, Your Honor. There is an organization nationally called the National Association of Industrial Owners of Property, NIOP, and they are currently involved in setting up a task force of their members to delve into the area of local government transparency, in particular financial transparency. And there's an article in I think today's or maybe tomorrow's Star Trib about that effort. It's getting kind of a lukewarm response from most city organizations, including the League of Minnesota Cities. But I have some people there that I know because I've done some public panels with NIOP in the past on the subject of fiscal disparities. And I called them and offered to volunteer to be a member of their task force so they could at least have some city guy, in on the group. And they accepted that offer, so I'm going to be helping them with that. The Chief Long and Ms. Mangan and I had a meeting this morning with representatives from the Chamber of Commerce, 50th and France Association, and the Minnesota Restaurant Association to discuss the intricacies of our liquor ordinance and how does it work, and are we enforcing it as it's written? What was it intended to comply? What are some of their concerns about it? So we had a pretty productive meeting. We had agreed that we are going to prepare a communication tool, a fact sheet or something like that, that explains our ordinance in more detail and what they can do and can't do, and we're going to provide that to the Minnesota Restaurant Association. They've agreed to bring in some of their members in Edina and do a little focus grouping of our communication with them and make sure we're saying what we want to say. So we had a good meeting with them and plan to keep moving that initiative forward this summer. We have told them that if they want to propose changes to our ordinance, they are welcome to do that, but that in the absence of that, our plan is to be more, to add clarity to the explanation of our current ordinance. We are in the midst of a selection process for an assistant city manager and a human resources director. The application deadline is May 10th. Selection, interviews, et cetera, will take place during June, with start dates for those two positions sometime between July 1st and September 1st. Ms. Mangan and I are working on a data practices training regimen for our employees who interact with the public, and in terms of working with them to get access to public data quickly, efficiently, cooperatively, et cetera. We're going to be meeting next week with the city attorney, I believe, and talking about his work in that area as well. Decision Resources Survey, the 2011 Edina Quality of Life Survey is ready to go. After many weeks of editing and improving it, it is ready to go. It is delivered. We're looking for them to begin their phone calls next week, and we're looking for the preliminary report to be in our hands in late June.
Now, if we get called, do we get to participate, or do we have to defer?
Yeah, you should probably. Yeah, I don't know. Tell them who you are, and they'll probably say no, thank you. They'll probably ask you to defer, I'm guessing. There are 400. They will have a 400-person sample. That gives us a plus or minus survey of 5%. That's the level of precision. Councilmember Bennett mentioned earlier in the evening that you're interested in having another town hall meeting, and I understand that in the past that your hope was to do that in the spring and in the fall. Spring is rapidly leaving us, but I do have a.
You mean technically?
Technically, I do.
Hasn't even really shown up yet.
I mean on a calendar basis. Yeah. I do have a couple of dates, though, that I wanted to propose to you. June 28th is one, and July 12th is another. And as long as we're talking about calendars, October 25th would be another one in the fall. The reason I'm proposing those dates happen to be Tuesdays. Don't know if that's the right day for this to happen or not, but I also need to get some feedback from you, and we could do it tonight, or you can give it some time and think about it, and we could do this via email if you wish. But give me some feedback on what time of day, locations you think would work, and then if we can nail down times and locations, we can use the time between now and then to decide the ultimate format, whether we're going to how we're going to sit and how we're going to receive comments, and are we going to tape it, and who's all going to be there, and that sort of thing. But if you could give some sense to the first one being on June 28th or July 12th, and the second one being October 25th, and then what time of day and what your input on location would be. I'd appreciate that.
All right. I think Member Bennett and I were just having a sidebar here. I think the best success we've had is having it at the senior center.
Okay.
And the best day we've experienced so far, although our history is limited, was a Saturday, I believe.
A Saturday, okay.
The turnout, probably maybe 35 at the January one, which is here during the noon hour. And then we had one in, not remembering exactly when it was, at the Hughes Pavilion. And that was a huge turnout. It was a group who wanted to speak about one issue. And we didn't have a range of issues brought forward or expressed. When we held it last April on a Saturday morning, late on 10 o'clock Saturday morning at the Senior Center, we had about 25, 30 again. So not as large as the previous one, but the topics were all over the map. It was a very cordial conversation. Right. I think people felt very free to speak. And so that was a really comfortable setting and a very comfortable conversation.
So it seemed to be the combination to me of the setting and the day.
Okay. So like a Saturday morning.
So it was like a Saturday morning for a couple of hours, I think.
Well, and acknowledging that there are different traditions and demographics in our community, if I were doing 2 in a year, I would probably hold one on a weekday evening, and then you've kind of covered both.
I wouldn't do both of them on a Saturday.
Right.
Okay.
You know, this is going to sound crazy, but another suggestion for the future is to have it at like the YMCA and give people free childcare so that parents, families could come as well, because I know it's sometimes difficult to manage those schedules, but that's another future possibility we could explore once the construction's done.
Yeah, we can, the idea of moving it around the town is a good one. It might be better, as we're coming into summer, to think about doing the one that's coming up on a day other than a Saturday, and maybe one in late October on a Saturday.
June 28th, and also looking at no longer having young children in sports, but having had young children. It seems to me that July is a particularly hectic month, and holding something in June, which is just shortly after school is out, does have some value.
June 28th, so would you want to do it in lieu of a work session? Or isn't that a council meeting night? No, it wouldn't be. It's not a council meeting night. So do it at like 5 o'clock on the 28th, or 7? Yeah, that's a good idea. Get into the evening a little bit so people don't feel like they need to rush.
The calls that I've had about it are from people who've said, gee, can you set it at a time that working people can make it? So if we set it on an evening, I think an early evening, I think we're accommodating.
June 28th, you want to do it here then, or at the senior center? And then maybe shoot for the fall at the Y or something.
Well, when we did it here, we had the room kind of set up differently, which has worked for other things. We were looking for something that had a little bit more informal nature with people all sitting on one level, and that's what we've done all 3 times. I do understand that parking could be difficult in the evenings at the senior center.
It's a good thought during the week.
I wonder if we could make an arrangement with the adjacent office building to permit parking.
We can look into that, yeah.
Because then that would address the parking.
Jennifer, do you have thoughts that are important from a communications standpoint for us to think about? You've accommodated us both places, here and the senior center.
I think I would only have thoughts or opinions if you plan to televise it, and we did not televise the last one, which was held at the senior center. We did reconfigure this room for the one previous to that because it was televised.
Also talked about trying to have it at the Southdale Library. I know that we haven't been able to get on their schedule previously, but they have a very large room that can accommodate groups of different sizes.
Okay.
You want to investigate some venues? But we'll think about the 28th at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Somewhere that is appropriate. Good work.
The last item on my list, Your Honor, is that there is a tax bill that is moving towards a conference committee, and this tax bill is going to consider a 1-year extension of the jobs TIF legislation that we have some concern about because of its potential impact on our discussion earlier tonight with Simon Properties. I did have a chance to talk with the chief House Republican conferee on that conference committee about the prospect of that jobs TIF making it and being part of the tax bill. She said it was a very good chance of it being in the final tax bill. There's probably also a very good chance the governor will veto the tax bill. But these things have, they can separate the ordinary things from the more politically sensitive things and have 2 tax bills. That's not unheard of. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of optimism on that particular issue. So it looks like that is going to be helpful to us.
Right.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, that comment, 2 of your comments caused me to think of 2 other things. On May 9th, the MLC mayors are meeting with Governor Dayton at 1 o'clock. Okay. And so if anyone has a particular issue they want to have me think about or raise with our colleagues on the MLC, I'll do that. You also made me think of one other thing. I agreed to help on a controversial issue. I think it will be controversial. MnDOT called me to ask me if I would serve as vice chair on the mileage-based user fee study. And the chair is going to be Bernie Leader, who's in the House. And then there's going to be about 25 people part of this group. They're sending me and Bernie to some national meeting in June in Colorado for a couple days. But I can see that it's already stirred quite a controversy in the Star Tribune. But nonetheless, with more fuel-efficient cars, relying solely on the gas tax to maintain your roads and expand your highway systems and bridges and transit, the gas tax alone isn't going to do the job. And especially with the advent of electric vehicles, which would travel basically scot-free on the road. So already at the tab there are members voicing concern about the electric car. So I think it'll be very interesting, and I'll keep you posted on that one. So that's it. Anything else that caused anything? Okay, good. Nice work tonight. We stand adjourned.